Gloria woke up early after having a good night's sleep in her mother's arms. She was no longer as traumatized as last night. She got out of bed lightly and changed as she prepared to go to Mamie restaurant to have her breakfast. She was already used to starting her new day with a nice breakfast, and of course, Mamie restaurant was her only choice. She didn't know if she went there for the food or so that she could see Mr. Mag once every morning. Splat! Gloria stepped out of her room and kicked away a bowl that was placed in front of her door. She was stunned. Blood! She looked over and suddenly jumped back into her room in a shock. A white jade bowl landed a short distance away. Fresh red blood splashed all over the floor, and a strong smell of blood washed over her. Gloria, who had just woken up, felt her stomach churn. She covered her mouth and took another 2 steps backwards. She closed the door with a pale face. The fresh blood that I procured. Camilla, who was on a roof not far away, had a pained expression. She perplexedly asked, "Why? Why did Miss Gloria turn and run when she saw the fresh and sweet blood? Why did she kick over the bowl? This is the breakfast I have freshly prepared for her." "Madam, usually when people prepare breakfast for others, they will place it on the table. Only the breakfast prepared for the dog will be placed on the floor. And, although you like fresh blood, humans don't drink fresh blood. Most of them hate fresh blood." In fact, the black cat mumbled. "Nonsense! Is there anything that is more delicious than fresh blood?" Camilla said coldly. After pondering, she added, "The problem must be with the blood. It's because you stopped me from killing this and that, and I ended up procuring a bowl of rabbit's blood." "Yes, yes, yes. You are absolutely right." Deborah was awakened by the sound made by the door slammed shut. She opened her eyes in a daze and looked at Gloria, who was standing at the door with a pale face. She swiftly got up from the bed, went over to her, and concernedly asked, "What is it, Gloria?" "Blood. Someone put a bowl of blood at my door," Gloria said with a tinge of fear. "Blood?" Deborah was shocked too. She grabbed Gloria's cold hands and consoled her. Then, she cracked open the door lightly and peered out. There was indeed a puddle of blood on the floor. It hadn't solidified yet, and looked rather terrifying. Last night's hanging ghost and splashing of fresh blood this morning. Who is that punk that keeps trying to scare Gloria? I have to ask Master to seek justice for us, or else Gloria will be scared out of her mind soon. Deborah closed the door. With a consoling smile, she said, "It's all right. It's only a little blood, and definitely not a human's. I will ask your father to look for your grandfather later. He will investigate who is the person that is scaring you with tricks. He will definitely catch the punk behind all this." Gloria gazed at Deborah for a while before she calmed down slowly. She opened the door again to have another look. Although the blood was still glaring, it wasn't so scary after all. She closed the door again after she had sorted out her thoughts. "I am going out now, Mother," Gloria said to Deborah, stepped over the puddle of fresh blood, and strode out quickly. Her stomach began to churn the moment she saw that fresh blood. All she wanted now was to leave the yard as quickly as possible. It seems like Miss Gloria indeed doesn't like fresh blood. I have to see what she likes to eat for breakfast. Camilla watched Gloria as she stepped into the horse-drawn carriage. She flitted away with the black cat. The horse-drawn carriage left the Moreton Manor, and went all the way to Mamie restaurant before it finally stopped. Gloria came out of the carriage and saw the familiar restaurant. Although the cold winds were blowing, she felt a hint of warmth and dependability for an inexplicable reason. Her tensed-up emotions began to relax. She went to join the line that had 20 to 30 people in it, and waited for the restaurant to open. Camilla stood far away with furrowed brows, and mumbled, "Mamie restaurant? Why does it sound so familiar?" After a short while, the restaurant's door opened, and Mag came out pushing his bicycle with Amy following behind him. "It's them!" Camilla's eyes lit up immediately. She had a deep impression of Mag and Amy. She had to admit that the black pepper steak that she had had that night was the most delicious food she'd ever eaten apart from fresh blood. Gloria gazed at Mag, who had just stepped out, and her gaze became gentler as she watched him. She felt that the hurt and shock she suffered from last night and this morning was actually nothing as she watched him. Camilla quickly noticed the change in Gloria's demeanor, and her gaze on Mag began to turn cold. So, Miss Gloria wants to eat the breakfast that he makes. It seems like this chap wasn't being honest with me, then. Mag felt his neck was a little cold for no reason, and he quickly covered his neck with the scarf he was holding. He ditched his final stubbornness when he faced the biting cold. He greeted the customers as usual, and sent Amy to school with the bicycle. The restaurant began its business after Mag came back. He greeted the customers individually at the door with a smile. "Good morning, Mr. Mag," Gloria said to Mag with a smile. "Good morning, Miss Gloria," Mag replied smilingly. After looking at her, he concernedly asked, "Miss Gloria, you don't look very good. Did you not sleep well last night?" "I had a bad dream. But it's fine. I will recover after eating a bowl of tofu pudding that Mr. Mag makes," Gloria said as she shook her head gently. A hint of blush went up in her cheeks. "Is he concerned for me?" "All right, then come on in," Mag said smilingly. Miss Gloria is actually blushing. That chap must have teased her, right? Smelly man. There is indeed not a single one of them who is decent. They are all indecent. Camilla's expression became colder. If she could kill with her gaze, Mag would have died numerous times. A bowl of yummy Yangzhou fried rice and a helping of sweet and heart-warming tofu pudding. Gloria felt herself healed after eating them. All the bad feelings were forgotten. "Thank you, Mr. Mag." After Gloria paid her bills, she deliberately went to the kitchen's entrance to say that Mag with a smile. Then, she left with a blush. "Ah! I have to see what kind of drugs he put in his food that made Miss Gloria like them so much." After watching the horse-drawn carriage go far away, Camilla walked toward Mamie restaurant. Mag, who just came out, saw Camilla at the restaurant's entrance, and said in shock, "Countess Bartoli." Her black cat servant that was wearing a black robe was still standing behind her. "Ah, I didn't expect you to still remember me." Camilla smiled coldly. "Not many would be able to forget you." Mag's gaze swept across her body. Her dark hair was loosely worn down her back in big waves. Her turquoise-green eyes were so seductive that they seemed to be able to talk, and her sickly pale skin accentuated her blood-red lips. Her long and tight black dress revealed her snowy bosom and a sexy cleavage. A slit that went all the way up to her thigh revealed her round and sexy long legs. It was indeed difficult to forget a vampire countess who had a queenly presence and a seductively, deadly figure. "May I know what I can do for you, Countess?" Mag asked calmly. "I said I would visit you, and I have to make true to my promise. Today I will gobble you up." Camilla licked her red lips and smiled seductively as if she was a female wolf that was looking at a lamb. "Excuse me, I reject." Mag turned over the wooden plaque on the door handle and took a step back with a smile. "The restaurant is closed now. Please come again next time, Countess." It was just having a meal, why did she have to sound so lustful? It made him a little expectant. "Closed." A hint of confusion flashed through Camilla's eyes as if she couldn't understand Mag. "The restaurant operates till 9 in the morning. It's 9 o'clock now, so we don't take any more customers." Mag could only explain again. Camilla pondered, and asked, "According to your rules, customers are people who pay for their meals, right?" "You can say that." "That's excellent. I'm not paying today, so I am not a customer." Camilla nodded and walked past Mag straight away. She pushed open the door and went in. Although it sounds quite reasonable, something doesn't sound right there. Mag was a little stunned. Wasn't that a rogue? If she was ugly, the missiles would be aiming at her now. However, these air defense weapons were not helpful in this instance. This vampire countess had a 9th tier power. These S-grade air defense missiles meant for the 7th tier targets were nothing in front of her. Shirley and the ladies, who were clearing up, were also rather taken aback to see Camilla walked in. Mag didn't usually allow customers to come in during their rest time. Shirley even revealed a hint of wariness as she could sense a dangerous aura from Camilla. This sexy woman should be a demon, one that was even more powerful than her. Mag followed her in, and helplessly said, "Countess Bartoli, you." Camilla already sat down at a clean table and crossed her legs elegantly. She said to Mag, "I would like to have the same breakfast as Miss Gloria. If it isn't available, then I will have to consume you this morning." So, she came because of Miss Gloria. Could Miss Gloria's pale complexion this morning have had something to do with her? Mag thought. Camilla had warned him previously because she rather liked Gloria, and now she had come to order the same breakfast as Gloria. There must be some connections here. Countess Bartoli. Is she here looking for trouble? Elizabeth looked at Camilla from a corner. This vampire could be considered a legend amongst the women, which was why she knew her. But she didn't expect to see her here. Mag pondered for a while before he shook his head, and determinedly said, "The opening hours of the restaurant are over, so the restaurant will no longer provide food. Furthermore, there are only 300 tofu puddings for every meal, and they all sold out this morning. If Countess Bartoli wants to experience the same breakfast as Miss Gloria, please come and line up early tomorrow morning." They really sold out. Camilla looked at Mag's eyes. They sold out. Mag nodded honestly. If this countess was really looking for trouble, he could only ask Urian for help. After all, he hadn't utilized that extra help chance from the VIP membership yet. No. If I lash out directly, Miss Gloria will definitely find out. Then, my image in her heart will become very uncouth. This is not favorable to my image sculpting. Camilla looked at Mag as she thought, but this face is simply asking for a lesson. I want to tie him up, give him a good whipping, and then drip candle wax all over him. That will show him my prowess. All right, then I shall return in the afternoon. Camilla stood up and glanced at Elizabeth at the corner. Then she looked at Shirley and the girls before saying to Mag, "This is your harem. They are the restaurant's service staff." Mag shrugged. "Ah. Do you think I will believe in your nonsense?" Camilla pursed her lips in disdain before heading to the door directly. "Men are indeed all indecent. None of you is good. I will not let the kind Miss Gloria fall into your trap." Mag, all the ladies in the restaurant looked at Mag in silence as their expressions became a little complex. Is she deliberately trying to destroy our restaurant's harmonious and friendly atmosphere? Mag was tempted to curse, but he didn't know how to explain or refute after seeing the ladies' innocent gazes. Harem? What's that? What did that big sister mean when she said all that? Should I tell Amy? Anna wondered hesitantly. "Madam, judging from Miss Gloria's expression when she came out of the restaurant, the person who holds the key to her stomach should be the boss of this restaurant. What shall we do now? Shall we get rid of him?" the black cat asked softly. "Isn't he just another indecent man? I will let him stay here so Miss Gloria could know who is the one that could bring her happiness. I will not stoop to the level of removing my competition. This would show I don't have any capabilities. I want to crush him directly." Camilla shook her head and raised her chin slightly with pride and confidence. "If we are going to deliver rabbit blood sneakily every day, I'm afraid that we are the ones going to be crushed," the black cat mumbled. "What did you say?" "I said. Today's sun is very round too." "Nonsense. Have you ever seen the sun flat before?" "Yes, yes, yes. Grandfather's butt, and knocked on your father's head. Are you going to the ice cream shop with me, big sister? All the kids adore you," Yabimiya said to Elizabeth with a smile as they walked on the road. Adore me. Elizabeth frowned. She didn't actually like the noisy kids, as she liked to be quiet. She went to the ice cream shop yesterday because she was bored in the dormitory. She just scattered some snowflakes casually, and didn't even smile at them at all. Yes. The children are asking me if you are a real snow queen. You look beautiful and cold, and have control over ice and snow. Yabimiya nodded with pride on her face. Snow Queen, Elizabeth whispered as she remembered the children's smiling faces. She gave a rare smile as she nodded. I'll go there for a short while. All right. Yabimiya smiled and nodded as she continued walking with her arm linked with Elizabeth's. In the ice cream shop, an orc with sunken eye sockets pleaded with Yabimiya, Miss Yabimiya, can I ask you for a favor, please? Can you hold a snowflake birthday party for my child's last birthday please? He was born on a snowy day, and he has loved snow since he was young. He loves ice cream too. But the doctor says he won't live for too long now, and most probably won't get to see this year's first snow. I beg you, please make an ice cream cake for him and let him watch the snow fall, even though it's fake. Mr. Curtis, how is little Kyle doing? You said you will be bringing him over previously, but I didn't see you guys at all. Is his illness very serious now? Yabimiya asked the orc with some heartache and urgency. I'm sorry. Someone said there is an old physician at the city's outskirts who might be able to cure Kyle, so I brought him there. But Kyle got even worse after a few days of treatment, so that physician asked me to bring him back. He won't last for more than a few days. Curtis looked sad and despondent. Kyle is a good kid. Heavens are so unfair to him. Yabimiya looked at Curtis piteously. He had always brought little Kyle to the shop for ice cream since it was open for business. He was a healthy child who just suddenly fell sick one day, and never came back to the shop again. And this man who could be considered successful became haggard within a few months because of his child. Days of being parents. Curtis had come to the ice cream shop once when Kyle became critically ill previously. But he hadn't come again after that, so this matter just went away quietly. Yabimiya looked pleadingly at Elizabeth, who was sitting at the side. She didn't know magic, and she couldn't conjure up snowflakes, but Elizabeth was super good at that, and the snowflakes she conjured up were even real. If little Kyle could see the snowfall from last night's, he would be very happy. She's always so kind. I really don't know what to do with her. Elizabeth nodded helplessly. Yabimiya's eyes lit up, and she nodded at Curtis. Please bring little Kyle here tomorrow night. The ice cream shop would be operating for the entire day tomorrow. However, I still have to ask my boss's permission for this. But, he is a super nice person, so he most probably wouldn't say no. Thanks. Thank you. Curtis bowed deeply at Yabimiya. Then, he wiped his tears and left. I hope there will be a miracle. Kyle is still so young. Yabimiya thought as she looked toward the door. Since he will not recover after having an ice cream cake, why does he still want to eat it? Elizabeth said perplexedly. I heard that when a person dies without any regrets, he or she will be able to go to a carefree place, Yabimiya said with a smile. Go to a carefree place, Elizabeth wondered, and no longer said anything. Boss, a customer came to the shop today and asked us to hold a birthday party for his son, Yabimiya informed Mag about this matter at noon. I'm sorry. I agreed without asking for your permission first, but Kyle is such a poor thing. He's only 4.5 years old, Yabimiya said to Magmia, you are the manager of the ice cream shop, so you are totally authorized to decide about this. And if he had asked me, I would have agreed too. Although we are operating an ice cream shop, I hope the ice cream that we sell has warmth to it, not simply being an ice cube, Mag said with a smile. He's such a poor thing. Why doesn't father make him a good meal? Then he will recover, Amy said sympathetically. Tomorrow's the restaurant's rest day. Let's celebrate little Kyle's birthday together tomorrow night. If this is going to be his last birthday, he should be even happier to receive so many blessings, Mag said after some pondering. Yes. He has been a very active child, and he would love the company. Yabimiya nodded and looked at Mag with a touched expression. The boss was indeed a very kind-hearted person. After lunch and a short period of rest, the busy lunch service began. Amy, do you know what a harem is? Anna asked Amy softly after she got her into a corner with her. Amy shook her head, and curiously asked, harem? I have no idea, big sister Anna. What is that? Is it a palace one? I have no idea, either. That big sister said that this morning. Anna shook her head and pointed at Camilla, who just happened to come in. She said that big sister Shirley and the rest are all Uncle Mag's harem. This must be a term with a deep underlying meaning. There could be a giant secret hidden beneath it. I have to ask someone who knows it in order to fulfill the assignment given to me by big sister Irina. Amy nodded thoughtfully. Gloria didn't come to Mamie restaurant for lunch. I have wasted so much time lining up, and yet I didn't see the person I wanted to see the most. This is so disappointing, Camilla mumbled disappointedly before she pulled out a chair and sat right across Krasu. Normally, this seat was vacant as nobody dared to sit right across the legendary great magic caster, even though he didn't seem to be very scary and even looked very kind. Hey old man, you look rather familiar. Camilla asked, having stared at Krasu for a while after she sat down. Because I had dug out your great-grandfather from his grave, kicked your grandfather's butt, and knocked on your father's head, Krasu answered calmly. If you say so, then you should be very familiar. Camilla nodded before her eyes suddenly widened. She jumped up instantly and took 2 steps back as she looked at Krasu warily and said, You are the Lord of Fire, Krasu. 1 editor's remark, one of Chinese words for harem is literally back palace, so it's probably that, I just don't know if it's used for the anime-derived harem. Before one went out to explore the world, the elders at home would warn them about certain tough characters that they should never cross. The Lord of Fire, Krasu, and the Lord of Ice, Urian, both ranked in the top 5 of this list. The number 1 spot belonged to Alex and Irina. The former could defeat anyone, and the latter dared to beat up anyone when she got angry. Of course, the most important point was that they basically moved and acted together. The black cat servant instantly hid behind Camilla. It was so afraid that it even dropped its robe. All the fur on its body bristled, and it trembled behind Camilla. Load of crap! I dug up all of their family graves. There was nothing except for a bunch of dried bats hanging upside down. Urian pursed his lips with disdain at the sight. That was because you dug in the wrong direction. Who was the one that only knew how to dig up the coffins? There were of course only dead people in the coffins, all the good stuff was on the other side. Krasu had an equally disdainful expression. I wouldn't have bothered to dig up their family graves if the old bat had not begged me to help them catch those haunted dried bats. I simply didn't bother to expose you when you went to cheat them. You were the cheat, not me. I helped them burn those dried bats to bring a permanent end to the problem. Furthermore, those dried bats that became spirits had long escaped from the graves. Those you killed were only the insignificant ones, the real deal was all out there, and it was me who dealt with them. The customers were all stunned to hear Krasu and Urian's argument. There was no other place that they could hear such a shocking story except at Mamie restaurant. Is it really nice to discuss digging out her family graves in front of her? Mag raised his eyebrows in the kitchen, but he had a hint of smile on his lips. He couldn't help feeling happy to see Camilla embarrassed. Camilla's feelings were indeed complicated. As a core member of the vampire tribe, she knew all about the matters that Krasu and Urian said. These had really happened. There was a mutation in the vampire family's graves, and situations of their ancestors' dried corpses becoming spirits and coming back to life kept occurring. These spirits had lost all of their mental abilities except for viciousness. However, they still retained 80% of their peak combat abilities, and were massacring their tribesmen mercilessly. The powerhouses in the tribes were wary of the ancestors' identities, so they invited Urian and Krasua to come to suppress them. They only managed to suppress the dried corpse's mutation then. Even she wasn't very sure what had actually happened. But then, the tribe cemetery became a forbidden place. All vampires weren't allowed to enter since then. However, she had discovered some burnt marks at the place where they prayed to their ancestors. She had thought they were made by incense, but according to the conversation between Krasua and Urian now, she began to suspect those marks weren't caused by incense, and were made by Krasua instead. No matter what, Krasua and Urian were indeed the benefactors of the vampire tribe. Although they were handsomely rewarded, and were not blamed for the damage done to the cemetery during their fights, Camilla still felt embarrassed to hear the two of them bragging about how they kicked the tribe leader of the vampires and punched the vampire powerhouses. She hesitated for a moment before saying, "Gentlemen, you might have remembered wrongly about the minute details of the past. It would be best not to recount them here again." Krasua shook his head as he seriously said, "Remembered wrongly? No way. Given your dad's loser behavior, I wouldn't forget him even if he turned into dust. Does your family still have the hobby of drying bats? Let me tell you, it's best to get rid of this bad habit. Things go bad when they are left hanging for a long time. You'd better burn them early," Urian also added with a serious expression. Camilla felt exasperated. She began to regret coming into this restaurant and sitting here listening to them. Of course, what made her even more curious was, why would the legendary incompatible Lord of Fire and Lord of Ice appear together in a restaurant and have a meal together peacefully? This had a great discrepancy with the legend. Fight? She was definitely going to lose to them. Even her father could only stand and listen to them if he had come. After all, even her grandfather had been kicked in the butt by them. "Masters, no shouting in the restaurant, or you will disturb the other customers' meals," Amy, who came over with Ugly Duckling in her arms, said to her teachers gravely. "All right, my precious disciple has given the instruction. Stop talking now. Let's place our orders and eat," Krasua said with a smile. "I shan't argue with you for Amy's sake." Urian also turned and smiled at Amy indulgently. "Disciple?" Camilla looked at Amy and was stunned. She immediately recalled the news she had heard earlier about Krasua and Urian taking in a disciple. She hadn't paid it much attention, as she thought it was just silly fake news. She hadn't expected that the news was actually real, and what made her even more shocked was, the two of them took in the same disciple. Camilla had quite a strong impression of Amy, but she didn't expect that this rather cute half-elf girl was taken in as Urian and Krasua's disciple simultaneously. This meant that she had two horrifyingly strong backers. Of course, what was more important was that Amy was the daughter of that horrible boss. Which meant that, the indecent man who was seducing Miss Gloria also had the strong backing of Krasua and Urian. "It seems like I can't use brute force here." Camilla looked toward the kitchen with some regret in her expression. "How do you do, big sister Camilla?" Amy greeted Camilla with a smile. She had a very important question to ask her, but it was inconvenient to do so in front of so many customers. Hence, she decided to greet her first before finding a chance to ask her later. "How do you do?" Camilla said, a slight nod. Although she was hostile to the indecent man, she had to agree that Amy was really very lovable. She had a delicate and chubby face, and her big blue eyes were big and glistening. She was sorely tempted to pinch her little face. Ugly Duckling looked at that black cat warily, and it made a hissing sound as a warning. Krasua was just sitting across her. Although he didn't say a thing anymore, that invisible pressure still made Camilla a little nervous. She ordered a helping of Yangzhou fried rice and a helping of sweet tofu pudding, and continued to sit upright. An unrestrained countess was forced to behave like a prim and proper lady. "Ah! I shall launch an attack after I eat the terrible food. In that case, even though Krasua and Urian are his backing, they wouldn't be able to interfere," Camilla thought as she put down the menu. Your Yangzhou fried rice. A bowl of fried rice was placed in front of her. Chapter 1005 Madam, are you already captured by the enemy? She looked at the fried rice in the bowl. Every grain of rice was distinctly coated by the eggs, and all the ingredients were cut into the same size as the rice grains. They looked colorful and harmonious together, which made people want to start digging in. It was just a simple fried rice that she wouldn't even eat in normal times, and now it made her unable to wait to start eating. Try it out? Camilla felt as if a voice was saying that enticingly to her in her heart. Let me see what kind of drugs this chap put into his food that made Miss Gloria fall in love with them, Camilla thought as she took a spoon and fed herself a mouthful of rice. The texture of grain-sized shrimp and ham was so smooth, and the egg-coated rice had a sweet flavor after being chewed well. The taste of every ingredient melted in her mouth and tickled her taste buds. Even when it was all swallowed, her mouth was still full of aroma. This refreshing texture and taste were different from the fresh blood's richness and freshness. It seemed to have reopened a door in her world and allowed her to cross over. This taste was just incredible. For the first time, Camilla had experienced the scrumptiousness of food apart from meat that had blood in it. It was also Mag who'd let her experience the delicious taste of food previously. However, that was a medium black pepper steak. Steak and red wine were food that she could easily accept. But, she had never tried any of the ingredients in this helping of fried rice before in her life, and had even believed that she would never try them for the rest of her life. However, they brought her an incomparable fresh experience in taste and freshness. One mouthful was simply not enough. Camilla swiftly scooped another spoonful of fried rice into her mouth. One mouthful quickly followed another mouthful. It was so delicious that she simply couldn't stop. Very soon, the bowl of fried rice was empty. I want another bowl of Yangzhou fried rice, Camilla said without any hesitation. She surprised herself by saying that as she stared at the empty plate in front of her. With a weird expression, she mumbled to herself, did he really put drugs in it? How did these simple ingredients taste so scrumptious and irresistible? Your sweet tofu pudding. The fried rice will be sent to you soon. Before Camilla could sort out her thoughts, Yabimiya had already placed a bowl of sweet tofu pudding in front of her. Sweet tofu pudding. That was another delicious feast. Half an hour later, Camilla was burping as she left Mamie restaurant. She took a break by supporting herself against the door frame as she looked toward the kitchen. Burp. He must have added drugs. But, it's so delicious. If I wasn't already so full, I would definitely have another bowl. Amy followed Camilla out with a smile, and asked, Big Sister Camilla, I have a question to ask you. Question? Camilla looked at Amy. Yup. Amy nodded her tiny head. She looked around her to make sure nobody was paying attention before she whispered, I would like to know, what is a harem? Harem? That is the collective name a king gave to all his women. Camilla paused and looked toward the kitchen before continuing, but, there are some stinky men who would shamelessly call his women his harem. Amy's eyes lit up immediately. She felt she had just heard an incredible piece of information. Bye. Camilla turned into a black fog and disappeared. In this case, are Big Sister Mia and the rest considered father's women? Although they were very pretty and nice, if Big Sister Irina knew about this, father would definitely be beaten up. And if Big Sister Irina became angry and refused to join father's harem, then I wouldn't be able to hug her to sleep every day. This simply was not good. Should I tell her about such an important matter? This is such a dilemma. Amy squatted in front of the restaurant's entrance and thought frustratedly with her hands supporting her face. Madam, were you already captured by the enemy? Ah, how could he capture me with such trivial tricks? Then, was the Yangzhou fried rice delicious? It's so good. Let me tell you this, I am just infiltrating the enemy's base to spy on him. Just as the saying goes, know yourself and your enemy, and you will never be defeated. You definitely understand this rationale. Then what shall we do now? The facts have already proven that the way to Miss Gloria's stomach is already inaccessible. Although I don't know what drugs that chap put in his food, I have to admit that he has successfully grasped Miss Gloria's stomach. Burp, including yours too. A quiet mumble. Shut up. Since the tender and heartwarming technique is a dead end, then I have no other choice but to play my trump card, the dominant president technique. The dominant president? Yes. The invincible, one and only dominant president. The black fog dissipated gradually as Camilla appeared and gazed at the demi-fashion from afar. She revealed a confident smile as she walked gracefully toward it. The door was pulled open as soon as Camilla reached the entrance, and a store assistant smilingly said, "Welcome to demi-fashion." Camilla walked in with her chin slightly raised, and calmly said, "I will take all the clothes you have in here." Let me emphasize again, all. This, the store assistant said with an awkward expression. I'm sorry, dear customer. All the clothes in the store are reserved. Even the next month's output is reserved, so there are no clothes available for sale in this store at all. Hey! Camilla, who had tried to act calm and collected initially, raised her eyebrows and looked at the store assistant. She couldn't help but raise her tone as she said, "Not even one piece." "Yes. Not one piece is available." That store assistant quickly nodded. This customer's aura was simply too scary. Even those noble ladies had never made her feel so pressured before. Wasn't this going to make her fail at acting cool? Camilla frowned as she pondered. Then, she smiled again, and rather dominantly said, "I will pay double the price for all the clothes in the store now and all those you can manufacture next month, regardless how much the others pay you." The store assistant began to look at Camilla differently with her mouth slightly agape. Paying double the price for all the clothes in the store would cost a few million copper coins. She said in a trembling voice, "Please wait for a minute. I have to get the boss as I cannot decide this." The other store assistants in the shop also had shocked expressions on their faces after they heard Camilla. Money could really enable her to do as she pleased. Her gaze swept over the few pieces of clothes on the racks. She was surprised to realize that some of these clothes were actually quite nice, especially that long coat. It had already attracted her attention when it was just simply hanging there. She began to imagine how beautiful she would look wearing that. Double the price. Gloria, who was checking the accounts in her office, was shocked. She put down the bills and started to proceed out. Countess Bartoli. Gloria was a little taken aback to see Camilla, who was standing in front of a black trench coat. She had quite a deep impression of this vampire countess. Although her behavior was a little weird, she was indeed quite high-ranking in the vampire tribe. Although she was surprised that Camilla wanted to buy all the clothes, Gloria quickly regained her composure. She went up with a smile. "How do you do, Countess? How do you do, Miss Gloria?" Camilla turned around with a smile and said to Gloria, "You still look so beautiful as usual." Gloria was a little stunned before she smilingly replied, "Your beauty remains the same as before too, Countess." "Oh, yes? I thought I had started to look haggard because I missed you." Camilla sighed with a hint of sadness. "Hey!" Gloria was stunned again. She gazed at Camilla with a weird expression before she quickly continued, "I heard from the assistant that you would like to buy all the clothes in the stores and those scheduled for next month, Countess." "Yes." Camilla nodded with a smile. As she looked into Gloria's eyes, she lovingly said, "I want all the clothes that Miss Gloria made, regardless of how many there are." Camilla's gaze made Gloria feel really uncomfortable. She shook her head, and said, "I beg your pardon, Countess. All these clothes are reserved. I will pay you double the price." Camilla's tone was very insistent. "I'm sorry, Countess. We at Blue Suede pride ourselves on our integrity. The clothes that are reserved by our customers will definitely be delivered to them. This will not change because other customers decide to pay us more." Camilla's brows furrowed slightly as she gazed into Gloria's determined eyes. The plot's progression didn't go according to her expectations. Shouldn't Miss Gloria be looking at her lovingly and give her her heart and all the clothes ecstatically now? Please don't be mistaken, Miss Gloria. What I value is the unique and intricate design of your clothes. These clothes are the most beautiful clothes I have seen. There are no fancy gems and excess accessories, yet they attracted my attention easily. I even fell in love with them. Camilla pointed at the black trench coat and gazed at Gloria lovingly. I was wondering who designed this beautiful piece of garment earlier. I think that person must be very talented. I even began to think I am already in love with her. A tinge of nervousness began to appear in Gloria's face. Even her voice started to tremble. You fell in love with Mr. Mag too? Yes, I have fallen in love, Camilla continued naturally before she paused and stared at Gloria with her eyes wide open. Hey! Who did you say it was? Mr. Mag? Didn't you design these clothes? I didn't design these clothes. Gloria shook her head and began to look at Gloria warily. Perhaps the Countess had also fallen in love with Mr. Mag? What was she doing here today? Did she come to find trouble? However, Mr. Mag was so outstanding that it was normal people would like him. She began to feel slightly depressed when she thought of that. It felt like others had discovered her precious belonging. Damn! Why does that chap have to appear everywhere? Furthermore, she said too. It seems to mean something. There was confusion in Camilla's heart. The lines she had prepared in advance were stuck in her throat. She couldn't continue, and started to feel frustrated. Never mind that she had failed to grasp Miss Gloria's stomach. That chap was even involved with the most important aspect of a woman's life, clothing. Furthermore, he had done so well. It was intolerable that he didn't give others a chance at all. If the Countess likes this piece of clothes, you can place a reservation with the store. However, according to the orders sequence, you may have to wait till next month before you can receive it, Gloria said cautiously. Although Countess Bartoli had her reputation, this was Chaos City, after all. As the heir presumptive of the Moreton family, she couldn't actually do anything to her, so she wasn't really afraid. Then, I shall reserve one piece, Camilla said with complicated feelings. She had come to showcase her dominant queen's presence, yet she had failed spectacularly. She only wanted to find a place to calm herself down now so she wouldn't go back to murder that chapter. Please register for the Countess, Gloria indicated to a store assistant at the side. Camilla started to regret her words immediately after she said them. She thought, no way. This piece of clothes is designed by that chapter, doesn't it mean I acknowledge him if I buy it? Then I will be inferior to him in front of Miss Gloria. This shan't be allowed to happen. What color do you prefer your trench coat to be, Countess? The assistant asked smilingly. Black. Just like this design. It's so pretty. 10 minutes later, Camilla walked out of blue suede with a complicated expression. She had a stack of receipts in her hands. He grasped the women's stomachs, and now he grasped the women's clothing. That chap is definitely a formidable opponent, Camilla mumbled to herself as she held onto the receipts. Miss Gloria's eyes are already blinded by him. She is already deeply entrenched in his trap and unable to extricate herself. Since this is the case, I have no other choice but to let him reveal his animal nature to Miss Gloria. This is the only way to wake her up and let her realize who is truly worthy of her. Madam, what do you plan to do now? Plan C. I'll sacrifice myself in order to make that animal reveal his true colors. Camilla's expression began to look seductive. Her pink tongue glided across her sexy red lips lightly. In this world, no man is able to resist my charms. Wouldn't you end up trapping yourself instead? Shut up. That is an ancient altar which is a remnant from the ancient times. It is still standing after 10,000 years. As long as it isn't damaged, it can start saltatory teleportation between all the teleportation portals. Gina has the unique Lantist's Power Stone, which can activate the portals. She is able to activate the teleportation portals 3 times. If she still can't find the chosen one after 3 transmissions, then she will have to walk. There was a hint of worry in the voice of the high priest too. You have deduced that the chosen one's location is near one ancient altar, and believe that our omnipotent God will make sure Gina finds him. I certainly hope so. In a desolate desert valley, an ancient teleportation portal lit up. A beautiful figure appeared in the middle of the altar. She was wearing a seaweed skirt with both her long legs closed together. 2 white seashells barely covered her ample breasts, and her pale skin was as white as snow, while her golden red hair was still wet as if she had just come out from a bath. Where am I? Could this be the continent? The lady opened her light golden eyes, and a gleam of light flashed through them as she stared at her surroundings curiously. Heat was emanating from the golden sand that stretched on endlessly. Everything was so new and amazing. Then, she raised her head and looked at the sun in the sky. It was hanging in the sky like a huge golden red plate. It resembled a continuously burning fireball. Is this the legendary sun? It's so round, so bright, so glaring. She swiftly retrieved her gaze, and she felt her surroundings had become black instantaneously. Am I blinded? No, Gina blinked her eyes in panic, and reached her hands out to feel her surroundings. Fortunately, she began to regain her sight after a while and heaved a sigh of relief. She covered her face with her hands and peered at the sun through the tiny gaps between her fingers. With a lingering fear, she mumbled, "So Grandma had said the truth. I really can go blind if I look at the sun. This sun is indeed so petty. I can't even look at it. Oh yes. I have come to find the chosen one. The high priest said I had to find him, then knock him out and bring him back. I am so excited just thinking about it." Gina rolled her eyes around as she remembered the motive of her trip. She didn't see the scene of the blocks of buildings from the image when she looked around her. Her gaze landed on the tall sand dunes next to the valley. I am going up there to have a look. Gina came to the edge of the altar and placed one foot on the sand. Shhh. It's so hot. Gina quickly retrieved her snowy white foot the moment she touched the sand. She lifted her foot with difficulty. The bottom of her foot was already red. She blew at her foot with teary eyes as she mumbled, "Why is it so hot? It even cooked my tiny foot." So, the people living on the continent have to live like grilled fish every single day? Such poor things. It's really more comfortable to live underwater. Then, why does the high priest try all his best to return Lantis to the continent? Even though she was complaining, Gina stood up again after sitting on the altar for a while. However, she didn't try to touch the ground directly this time. Instead, she tore a portion of her seaweed skirt off and made 2 things that resembled straw shoes. After Gina put the straw shoes on her feet awkwardly, she took a deep breath and stepped onto the sand. Gina could feel the steamy, hot air surge from the ground crazily the moment she left the altar. She felt as if she was in an oven, and it made her uncomfortable. Fortunately, now that she was wearing her straw shoes, the ground didn't feel as hot as before, so it was still tolerable to her. Oh no! I feel the water content in my body is going to be gone soon, and there is no water element in this place. I have to return to the altar before I become a sun-dried fish. Gina moved in tiny steps and swung her arms rapidly as she moved forward. The distance between every step was only 10 centimeters. She resembled a penguin that was trying its best to run. Although the frequency of her steps was high, the speed was indeed no different from a penguin's. Even though she had started her training of splitting her tail into legs and walking since she was young, the sensation of walking on land and walking in water were totally different. That was one small step for Gina, but one giant leap for merfolk. After Gina's constant struggles, she finally climbed up the 30-meter-tall sand dune half an hour later. It was still sand behind all this sand. Are we really coming back to this desolate place? The sweaty Gina gazed out to the desert, but she didn't see a single living soul. She sat on the ground weakly and disappointedly before she quickly jumped up again. She patted her butt rapidly as she felt she was almost roasted alive. No way! I have to go back to the teleportation portal to replenish my water content. Gina walked toward the altar below weakly. Dehydration made her very weak, so she spent almost half an hour before she got back to the teleportation portal. Gina slouched over the teleportation portal feebly, and whined, "Mommy! I miss home. The continent is too scary. I almost became a dried salted fish." She took out a big water bag from a space-distorting bag and began to gulp down the water. She finally put down the water bag after drinking for 5 minutes. She heaved a long breath as she felt she came back to life again. It's fortunate that the high priest gave me a huge bag of seawater, or else I would have died of thirst here. The water in this bag could fill a big pool, and should last me for a period of time. If there is no more water left, then I will have to return to the sea, Gina talked to herself. She got up and walked around the teleportation portal as she looked at the hot desert with a lingering fear. This was definitely not that location in the scene. No, I have to find the chosen one as soon as possible. Lantist is still waiting for me. Gina's gaze became determined as she pressed the teleportation stone into the center of the teleportation portal's groove. A golden beam lit up and Gina disappeared from the teleportation portal, leaving behind a water bag. Yeah. My water! A scream of deep despair sounded in another space. Father works so hard usually, I shall let him have a good sleep on his rest day. Amy retrieved her hand and bent over to kiss Mag's cheek. Then, she got off the bed quietly and waved to Ugly Duckling, who was still trying hard to get up to the bed. She carried it in her arms and started to make her way downstairs. After closing the bedroom door, she quietly spoke, "Don't wake Father, Ugly Duckling. He works very hard every day." Meow, meow. Ugly Duckling gazed at Amy as though it understood, and its cries became much softer. "Father cooked for me every single day. I have decided to cook a breakfast of love for Father today." Amy put Ugly Duckling down after they were downstairs. She then went to carry a little stool over and stood on it. She tiptoed to reach for a little apron that was hanging next to the door. It was given to her by Auntie Bernice, but she had never used it before. Amy tied the apron on her just like her father before she carried the little stool into the kitchen. Then, she washed her hands and ran to the fridge to check on the ingredients. She seemed to be in a dilemma. There is so much meat and vegetables. What should I make? Meow, meow. Ugly Duckling said as it clawed at the fish tank with anticipation. No. Father said we should have a light breakfast, so we are not having fish. Amy shook her head. Ugly Duckling went to the other side of the fish tank and clawed at the compartment that held the prawns as it cried, "Meow, meow. Prawnies are a good choice." Amy nodded. She took a small net and struggled to scoop out 2 fat prawns as she stood on the stool. Plat! A big prawn that was unwilling to die jumped out of the net and fell onto the floor. It tried to jump toward the sewage. Meow! Ugly Duckling went over immediately. It lifted a paw and pressed on that big prawn. "Good job, Ugly Duckling." Amy came over and grabbed the prawn that was as big as her hand from Ugly Duckling's paw. "I'll give you a prawn's head as a reward later." Meow, meow, meow. Ugly Duckling called out excitedly. "Apart from prawns, let's have some beans, beef, mushrooms." "Oh yes, how do I turn on the fire?" "Never mind, I will just release a fireball." "Oh. The fire seems to be too big. Why is there a hole at the bottom of the pot?" "Nope. Let's start again." Amy was meddling in the kitchen alone, and strange sounds came out every now and then. Mag was woken up by a burning smell. "What is that smell?" Mag opened his eyes drowsily as he naturally looked toward the little bed. He could see Amy's sleeping form every morning, but she wasn't in her bed today. Amy. Mag jumped up from his bed immediately and went over to touch the little bed. It was cold, so the little one had to have got up for quite a while. Where is she? Mag couldn't even bother to change as he simply went out in his pajamas. The smell of burnt food washed over him and made him cough as soon as he opened the door. What is this little one doing? Trying to burn down the house? Mag was shocked because the smoke and burnt smell obviously came from downstairs. He was having serious suspicion that there was a fire downstairs as he rushed down. It still looked a little weird. I wonder if father will like it. Come ugly duckling, try this, Mag heard Amy and halted as soon as he reached the kitchen's entrance. Is Amy making breakfast for me? Surprise flashed through Mag's face. His heart immediately felt warmed. The little one had actually got up quietly and sneaked downstairs to make breakfast for him. Mag didn't make a sound. Instead he peeped into the kitchen and saw a weird scene. Amy was holding a long soup ladle that was filled with some sticky black soup and walked slowly toward Ugly Duckling with a smile. Meanwhile, Ugly Duckling was backing off slowly until it was cornered. It was staring at the thick black soup with its big eyes. It was standing on its two hind legs, and was covering its face in despair. It's all right, Ugly Duckling. Although the taste is a little weird, it's made for my father, so I got to make sure that he won't die after eating it. So, you got to be the poison tester. Amy removed one of Ugly Duckling's chubby paws with a smile. Meow. Ugly Duckling looked at Amy grudgingly. Are you the devil? You don't even know if it's inedible, and you are feeding it to me. Mag didn't know he should laugh or cry when he saw this. But, Mag's smile began to fade a little as he looked at the kitchen. Even though the kitchen looked rather neat generally, there were 3 pots with holes in the bottom lying neatly in a row, and a fireball was dancing on the stove. She was the kitchen terminator. Amy, why did you wake up so early? Mag said to Amy with a smile as he could no longer watch Amy forcing Ugly Duckling to be the tester. Father. Amy was slightly taken aback. She hid the soup ladle behind her when she turned to look at Mag. She depressedly whispered, because Amy thinks father works very hard, so I want to make breakfast for father. But, so it was Amy trying to cook breakfast for father. No wonder I could smell a sweet aroma in my dreams earlier. Let me see, what scrumptious food did Amy make? Mag walked into the kitchen with a smile and straight to the stove. His eyelids twitched as he looked at bubbly black stew on it. This is prawn stew with beans, stewed beef, stewed mushrooms, stewed, Amy counted with her fingers. She listed almost all the ingredients in the fridge. Then she looked at Mag expectantly. Father, do you like it? Mag looked into Amy's big blue eyes. This little one was never interested in cooking, but in order to make him a breakfast, she had put in so much effort. Even though the smell was a little weird, the thought made him very touched. He patted Amy's head with a smile. Yes. Father likes it. Thank you, Amy. Meow. Ugly Duckling came over and rubbed Mag's calf with its head and looked at him with gratitude as if he had just saved it from purgatory. I think the heat is almost there. Amy should remove this fire now. Mag could vaguely smell the burnt odor from the big pot. The taste was already weird enough, if it got burnt some more, Mag might not be able to swallow it even if he pinched his nose. Yes, Amy answered obediently, and retrieved the fireball on the stove with a wave of her hand. Mag stared at the stove that had a hole burnt through it and began to negotiate a price for repair with the system in his heart. They agreed on a repair price of 5,000 copper coins. This breakfast was so expensive. After he went up to wash up and change, Mag carried a bowl of that black stew and sat down in front of the table. A complicated scent greeted his nose. There was the scent of prawns, beef, mushrooms, and all of the ingredients. It was difficult to imagine that they would all appear in the same pot. Mag gazed at Amy, who was standing next to the table with anticipation. After a moment of hesitation, he still picked up the spoon and fed himself a spoonful of the stew. It wasn't delicious, it was a little fishy among the sweet and tangy taste instead. Ingredients that were mixed together without being handled properly would never become a delicious stew even though they were the best ingredients in the world separately. How is it, father? Amy asked. Very scrumptious. Mag nodded and smiled as he fed himself another big spoonful. It's great. Amy clapped with a happy expression. After giving it a thought, she said, then I will have a bowl too. No, Mag swiftly stopped her. Smiling, he said, because it is so delicious, father decides to finish it all. Father will make something nice for little Amy later. Amy looked at Mag and nodded after some pondering. All right, since father loves it, then I will leave it all to father. And I shall cook for father every day from now on. Mag almost dropped the spoon in his hand. He immediately shook his head, and said, no. It's so cold in winter, how could little Amy wake up early every morning to cook breakfast for father? You will continue sleeping in the future, and father will make you breakfast. No way. He could only eat this kind of breakfast once. He couldn't handle any more of it. After drinking 2 bowls of stew, Mag threw away the rest in the pot when Amy wasn't paying attention, and this ended the breakfast debacle. However, Amy's thoughts had warmed his heart immensely this winter morning. Father, are we going to celebrate the birthday of that big brother orc today? Amy asked Mag, who was washing the bowls in the kitchen after breakfast. That's for tonight. Then, what will we do for the day? Amy looked at Mag expectantly. This morning, Mag pondered before his eyes suddenly lit up. He turned around, and said to Amy, Father will bring you to an interesting place later. After putting Ugly Duckling into the bicycle's basket, Mag rode the bicycle toward the west of the city with Amy. There was a big bazaar in the west of Chaos City. It was also a place where traders from both the north and south gathered. Businessmen gathered here, and street artists were a common sight. On a rest day, the bazaar had 2 rows of street vendors along the 2 sides of the street. The place was full of tourists, and it was busy and full of life. The orcs were selling beasts' teeth, the demons were performing fire breathing on the streets, the elves were earning money and claps using their beautiful voices, succubi were dancing seductively with snakes to attract the men's attention. Look, father! There are 2 spring onions growing out of that big demon's nose. Wow! That's a beautiful bird and it sings. Look at that huge snake that is tangled on that big sister. Amy sat on Mag's shoulders and looked around her wondrously. She kept exclaiming and her big blue eyes seemed to be glowing. Ugly Duckling was also huddled on top of Mag's head, shaking like a leaf. This was also Mag's first visit to the bazaar in the west. He only found out about it 2 days ago when he overheard the customers talking about it. This was a great place to visit besides being a place where everything could be bought and sold. Everyone, regardless of their gender and age, could find their fill of fun there. Mag gazed around and discovered that many of the traders were not from Chaos City. He could see a little of all the different local customs on Norland continent from them. Father, I want to eat that sweet. Amy pointed at a boy who was holding onto a sweet in a bird form. Is this sugar figure? Mag looked at the sugar figure in that boy's hand. He looked around and saw a stall next to an alley where a white-haired old man gave a little sugar lamb to a child. He walked straight over. Little friend, do you want to have some sweets? The old man asked Amy smilingly. Yes. Amy nodded honestly. Spin this wheel. I will make whatever the wheel lands on. If it lands on a blank space, I will make one that you like for free, the old man said with a smile. Yes, yes. Amy nodded happily. Mag let Amy down with a smile so that she could spin the wheel. In his distant memory, his father had also brought him to a bazaar and let him spin the wheel of the sugar figure artist. Wow, it's blank. Father, look. I landed on the blank space. Amy's surprise voice interrupted Mag's thoughts. Mag also smiled when he saw where the arrow landed on the wheel. He patted her head. That's fantastic. You are so lucky, little girl. Say it. Which one do you want? Grandpa will make it for you. The old man also smiled at Amy. Amy looked at all the different pictures of birds and animals, and finally chose a fat tiger. Soon, the fat sugar tiger was done. It looked very cute with its delicate whiskers and silly features. Thank you. Mag nodded to the old man as a form of gratitude. Thank you, Grandpa, Amy said obediently as she received the sugar figure. She continued on her way holding onto Mag's hand. She raised her head to look at Ugly Duckling on Mag's shoulders. Did you see this, Ugly Duckling? If you continue eating, you will become as fat as this. Crack! Amy took off half of the tiger's head with one bite. Yummy, she said as she chewed. Ugly Duckling's eyes widened as it looked at the sugar tiger without half of its head in Amy's hand. Mag complained silently in his heart after watching the orc's preparation method. He had already lost his appetite for the roast chicken in his hand. Right at this moment, the two orcs roasting the chickens furiously shouted at Mag, "What did you say?" The people surrounding them were also staring at Mag with interest. Mag looked at the two muscular orcs, who were almost 2 meters tall, stunned. Shaking his head, he said, "Did I say anything?" He was only complaining in his heart. Perhaps these two chaps knew mind reading? Mag was confused. "Father, you said their roast chicken is not nice," Amy whispered as she bit into the drumstick. "Hey!" Mag raised his eyebrow. Did he really say it out loud? The bald orc on the left cracked his fists as he shouted at Mag, "Who are you? Are you out to find trouble with us brothers? This is the traditional method of making mud-covered roast chicken passed down by our ancestors. The secret condiment is even the best in this world. In our tribe, we are the best at roasting chicken. You have to apologize to us properly today." Ding! This system had detected the host complaining about chefs again, and it triggered a hidden mission: please create a perfect beggar's chicken within 3 days. The system will provide a beggar's chicken recipe and experience bag, but there will be no opportunity to use the test field for the god of cookery. If the mission is successful, the host will receive a chance to spin the god of cookery upgrade wheel. You will receive a recipe if you accumulate 2 chances at spinning the upgrade wheel. However, if you fail, 0.5 strength point will be deducted, and you'll have to apologize to the chef seriously. Right at this moment, the system's voice appeared in Mag's head. "Damn! You are framing me, system." Mag raised his eyebrow as he finally understood. The system had broadcast his thoughts, and thus he said out all the thoughts he had earlier. This was akin to trashing their livelihood directly in their faces. Even in the past, he seldom trashed people's livelihood directly in their faces because if a conflict arose, those people who were wishing for his death every day would be all rushing out of the kitchens with their cleavers. His millions of online fans wouldn't be able to protect him. Hence, he usually complained on Weibo after he got back. However, he wasn't overly concerned as those two orcs were only normal orcs with second-tier prowess. Even Amy could easily defeat 10 of them. But Mag was a civilized person, after all. Their roast chicken was badly done due to their lack of culinary skills. They didn't have to fight over such trivial issues. However, this chicken was indeed badly done. Since the system had already broadcast it out and even issued such a nonsensical mission, there was no point in Mag trying to hide anymore. He stepped out before Amy could conjure up a fireball, and smilingly said, "I am naturally considered your customer since I have bought this roast chicken from you. You do not dictate if this roast chicken is delicious or not. Your customers will judge for themselves after they try it. What I have said earlier was what I felt after eating your roast chicken. You are running a business, not being robbers, so why can't people comment?" The surrounding people nodded. Although Mag's words were a little overboard, they were reasonable. Would it be a joke if the sellers dictated whether it was delicious? That orc didn't seem to be as righteous as he was earlier after seeing Mag's calm demeanor. After all, they were in Chaos City, and not in their tribe where they could fight it out whenever they were unhappy. However, selling this mud-covered roast chicken was the two brothers' livelihood. They naturally would feel unhappy when someone bad-mouthed them like this. They had to seek an explanation and make Mag apologize to protect their reputation. The orc at the side rolled up his sleeves and walked out. He glared at Mag with his bull-sized one eyes, and said, "**CK, you are trying to malign us. Are you able to find another roast chicken that is better than ours in Chaos City? I think you are asking for a beating. Duel with me if you are a man and let me tear your nonsense-sprouting mouth apart. Don't be rash, Eugene." The other orc, Fabian, stopped him with his outstretched arms. His younger brother was a little hot-headed and easily agitated by others. Mag hadn't even said a word when Amy at the side already excitedly said to Eugene, "Duel? Yes, yes. Father will be considered as bullying you if he duels with you. Why don't we fight it out? I super love fighting. As long as you don't say that I am bullying you." Everyone was looking at Amy with eyes wide open. She had silver hair, big blue eyes, and exquisite features, and was wearing a bunny hat and holding a chicken leg. She looked so adorable. This little one hadn't even reached the waist of the orc, and yet she wanted to fight on her father's behalf? She even told the orc not to deem her a bully? Although she sounded arrogant, she looked super cute doing that. There was a hint of smile on Mag's lips too. Amy wasn't being arrogant. This little one had a fifth-tier prowess now. She could indeed be considered as a bully if they really fought it out. Eugene stared at Amy as his mouth twitched before raising his head to speak to Mag. "Is this how you behave as a father? How could you use this adorable little one as a shield? Fight your own battle if you are capable. I don't hit women and children." He is rather principled. Mag felt a little like laughing. However, this brother's principles had saved his own face. Otherwise, how awkward would he be if he was defeated by a 4-year-old girl? "I came out for an excursion today, and not for a fight. I am also a cook. I didn't control my mouth and have offended you. However, since I have already said these comments, I will not take them back. They are indeed my feelings after I tried this dish. If you feel unjustified, bring your stuff and look for me at Aden Square's Mamie restaurant," Mag said to Fabian. "We chefs, of course, will duel in our own ways. Let's have a roast chicken duel. One probably meaning, as big as a bull's eyeballs." He cursed the system silently 10 times for making him face a duel for no reason before continuing shopping around the marketplace with Amy, who looked regretful. "Big brother, are you going to let that fellow off just like that?" Eugene was indignant since he had already arranged a roast chicken battle with us. "We'll just have to wait for that fair duel at the place he mentioned 3 days later." He was right. Chefs have their way of battling. "Fighting and killing aren't how a chef should act," Fabian interrupted Eugene. "Mamie restaurant? It's quite a famous restaurant, right? Could he be the boss? The missing person notice a couple of days ago was given out by Mamie restaurant. I heard that the food in the restaurant is delicious. In that case, we can go over and take a look 3 days later." The passers-by were all talking about it, and some were prepared to go over to watch the show. After walking around for a while more, Mag brought Amy back to the restaurant. The little fellow ran over to the magic potion shop with Ugly Duckling to look for black coal and green pea, while he returned to the kitchen to start studying that experience bag he received. Just like before, when he opened the glimmering, gold experience bag, the recipe and experience for making beggar's chicken rushed into his mind. The most famous beggar's chicken was naturally Changshu's beggar's chicken. It was famous because of the legend of the Condor heroes, but it was already very difficult to find one that was cooked in the traditional way, wrapped in lotus leaves, covered in clay, and then cooked with coal. Mag had only had it twice in the past. The first one was not bad, but on the second time, he had to leave after taking a small bite. In a modernized kitchen, the current trend was to make it using the microwave oven or oven. Many even made do without the lotus leaves. However, in order to taste the authentic beggar's chicken, one would naturally have to use the traditional method. This beggar's chicken recipe that the system provided should be considered an improved recipe from the traditional beggar's chicken. However, the essential clay, lotus leaves, and coal were not left out because it was troublesome. Without them, the essence of the beggar's chicken would be lost. Without the test field for the god of cookery chance, and with only 3 days, Mag had to make use of all the time he had to create a delicious beggar's chicken. Luckily, the system unlocked all the ingredients, and also provided the kitchenware needed for making beggar's chicken. At this moment, beside the roast duck oven, there was an additional 3-tier coal oven. It was a highly efficient coal oven that the system designed specially to roast beggar's chicken. Mag closed his eyes to digest the sudden influx of information in his brain. When he opened his eyes again, everything was clear. All right, let's start with this chicken first. Mag put on the apron that was hanging at the side, took out a defeat herring tool, and prepared 3 yellow chickens. In the evening, Amy peeked her little head into the kitchen, and asked Mag, "Father, big sister Zixie also wants to join tonight's birthday party. Shouldn't we set off now?" Mag looked at the 3 yellow chickens that were completely stuffed in his hands and nodded with satisfaction. He glanced at his watch. It was almost 5 p.m. He quickly put the 3 yellow chickens back into the fridge and took his apron off. He said, "Yes, we should be setting off. Amy told me about that child. I want to take a look. Perhaps I can provide some help for him," Zixie told Mag at the restaurant's entrance. "Your healing magic is so powerful. If it works, that child will be really lucky." Mag nodded. Zixie was the most powerful healing magic caster he had seen so far. Great Dryad's nature magic did have a very strong healing ability. The closed sign was already hung on the door of the ice cream shop, and the curtains were down to block out people's gazes. Mag knocked on the door, and Mia opened it quickly. When she saw the people standing at the door, she smilingly said, "Boss, you guys are here. How are the preparations?" Mag asked as he walked in. "Almost done. We didn't have to decorate much because our shop's theme was originally snow and ice." Mia nodded, and only then noticed Zixie and Lulu, who were behind Mag surprised. She said, "Sister Zixie, you're here too?" "Yes, I want to take a look at the child to see if I can do anything for him," Zixie said with a nod. Mia exclaimed, "That's great. Sister Zixie's magic is so powerful. I am sure little Kyle would be cured. You'd better not tell them about this first. There are still many illnesses I cannot cure," Zixie said with caution. I understand." Mia nodded. The temperature in the ice cream shop was a little lower than outside, at almost 0 degrees Celsius. Other than the full white decoration, there was also a pile of snow that was around 20 centimeters deep on the empty space on the floor and cabinets of the restaurant, looking as though the place was in an icy snowland. Elizabeth, Ferris, and the others were all there. Anna was sitting in the corner, making a small snowman. Blower, who was back in male clothing, was sitting at the side, watching quietly. When she heard them, Anna turned around and beckoned Amy over. "Amy, come over here quickly. Let's build little snowmen. Big sister Elizabeth made us a lot of snow just now." "Okay, okay," Amy replied merrily. She put Ugly Duckling on the floor and ran towards Anna. Meow. After leaving the warm embrace, Ugly Duckling shuddered, but quickly ran over with Amy happily. However, it did not manage to stop in time, and ended up crashing into a thick pile of snow in the corner, leaving only 2 hind legs and a tail dangling outside as it failed to struggle free. "Look, I told you you're fat, and you didn't believe me. You can even get stuck in snow." Amy grabbed Ugly Duckling's legs with some disdain and pulled it out from the snow, making a soft pop and leaving a cat hole in the snow. Meow Ugly Duckling shook its head to shake off the snow on its head and looked innocently at Amy. Amy ignored it and squatted beside Anna, watching her make little snow animals like rabbits and sheep. She could not help but praise, "Little sister Anna, that's impressive. The little snowman you make look so pretty. Amy can do it too." "It's super simple," Anna said with a smile. "I can do it too? Then let me make an ugly duckling first." Amy nodded and picked up a lump of snow. She rolled it into a round snowball and poked 3 holes in it, and then put it beside Ugly Duckling. She nodded with satisfaction. It's exactly the same. One popular breed of chicken in China with yellow beak, yellow skin, and yellow feet. Chapter 1012 Is it time to eat the cake? Anna also stared at the snowball for a while before continuing to make a snowman as she stifled her giggle. "Boss, is this arrangement okay?" Yabimiya asked Mag. "It's very thoughtful. I believe little Kyle will like it." Mag nodded and pulled his clothes to cover himself tighter as he said, "But this temperature seems a little too low for someone ill. Although the theme for tonight is ice and snow, the temperature can't be too low." "But if we increase the temperature, the ice and snow will melt," Mia said. "Leave that to me." Mag walked over to the central air conditioning control board. One of the basic functions of this air conditioning system that the system set up back then was localized temperature control. However, the operation was a little complicated. Usually, Mia and the rest would basically use the idiot-proof one-button operation that the system set to match the day's weather and humidity to give the customers the most comfortable dining experience. The moment the heater was switched on, the temperature in the central area started to rise to around 20 degrees Celsius, while the peripheral regions remained at 0 degrees Celsius. That way, there would not be any changes to the previous setup because of the rise in temperature. When he felt the temperature rise and the air become warmer, Mag nodded with satisfaction. Although it might not necessarily help the child, if this was going to be his last birthday, hopefully he would be able to spend it happily. The temperature really became higher only in the center. "That's impressive, boss!" Mia exclaimed after walking back and forth in the peripheral region. "Is the ice cream cake ready?" Mag walked over to the work area. "It's already ready. Mr. Curtis had already paid the deposit. He wanted the biggest cake, so we made a 32-inch 3-tier ice cream cake," Mia said as she followed behind Mag. He had to admit that Mia was indeed talented in dessert and cake making. On the 32-inch ice cream cake, there were 2 orcs, one large and one small, on the top tier, looking into the distance as they huddled together. Their lifelike eyes were filled with hope. "Very good." Mag nodded. This was already beyond what he had taught Mia. She was really talented. "This is a birthday party, so be more relaxed later and let the children have fun," Mag told everyone in the restaurant when he walked out of the work area. Everyone nodded and understood what Mag meant. Ding, the doorbell rang. "Coming." Mia's eyes lit up, and she walked towards the door. When she opened the door, a tall and skinny orc stood at the door, holding a skinny little orc. The lights in the shop dimmed immediately, and the colored lights lit up on the snow, presenting a beautiful world of ice and snow. The little orc's listless eyes lit up immediately as though he had discovered a new land. The glistening ice elves and setting filled with snow made him feel as though he had fallen into a wonderland. "Wow, it's beautiful," the little orc exclaimed and subconsciously let go of his father's hand as he walked into the ice cream shop alone. The place looked like it just snowed heavily. There were thick piles of snow and little snowmen. Everything looked so real that a pure smile hung on his slightly pale face. Tears welled up in Kittis's eyes. Ever since Kyle had fallen ill, he had not seen a smile on his face for a very long time. He looked at the people in the shop with gratitude. "What a pity I didn't get to see what it looked like when it snowed," Kyle said with a slight disappointment. "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you." Just then, the birthday song was sung gently. Ferris and Babla pushed a giant ice cream cake with a thin candle on it out on a little cart. At the same time, snowflakes started fluttering in the sky, descending slowly from nowhere. It's snowing! It's snowing! Little Kyle was stunned for a while before he exclaimed in surprise. He reached his little hand out to hold the snowflakes. When the snowflakes landed on his hand, it felt cold, but they quickly melted. The smile on his face became wider as though he had seen the most beautiful thing in the world. Curtis turned his head around to wipe his tears. He looked at little Kyle with his eyes red. What a nice child he would be if he did not fall ill. Why must my child be down with such illness? Why must he endure such pain? What illness is this? Why is he so pale? Mag frowned slightly and looked at Kyle. Usually, an orc's skin was green, but this child looked like an orc with faded colors. His exposed skin was almost white, and he was probably so greatly tortured by the illness that he was only left with skin and bones. He was just a 5 to 6-year-old child, and that broke Mag's heart. Mia walked to little Kyle with a crown and put it on his head with a smile as she said, "Happy birthday, little Kyle." "Happy birthday," everyone said with a smile, making the atmosphere cozy and welcoming. "Thank you, big sister Mia." "Thank you." "Thank you, everyone," Kyle said as he stifled a cry. Kyle looked at the large cake and the smiles on everyone's faces, and tears welled up in his eyes as well. "This is a birthday party your father prepared for you. Let us spend your birthday with you today," Mia said. "Hmm." Kyle nodded. He turned back to look at Curtis. "Thank you, father. It's said that if you make a wish before blowing out the candle, the wish will come true. Now, little Kyle, close your eyes and make a wish before blowing the candle out with your father," Mia said with a smile. Curtis walked over, picked Kyle up, and walked towards the cake. Kyle closed his eyes and put his hands together as he made a wish in silence. After that, he opened his eyes and blew the candle out with Curtis. "I hope that even if I were to leave, Father can continue living happily and healthily," Kyle said softly as he looked at Curtis. Curtis tightened his grip on Kyle, and his tears fell silently. The shop fell silent all of a sudden. Everyone could not bear to watch this scene. What a nice child! Why did he have to fall ill with such a strange disease? Just then, Amy peeked her little head out, and asked, after blowing the candle out, "Is it time to eat the cake?" She looked at the 3-tier ice cream cake and gulped. The silence remained for a while. Everyone had a slightly strange expression. Curtis wiped his tears and squeezed out a smile as he said, "Little Kyle, let's cut the cake together and share it with big brothers and sisters and the children." There was also a smile on little Kyle's face. Ever since he fell ill, his father did not allow him to have ice cream. Snowflakes and ice cream were his favorite things. Now that he had them all, he felt very blissful. After having the ice cream cake, little Kyle's mood looked obviously better as he had fun building snowmen and having a snow fight with Amy and Anna at the side. Curtis bowed deeply with his eyes reddened to Mag and the rest as he saw Kyle full of smiles, and gratefully said, "Thank you so much." "You're welcome, Mr. Curtis. We merely did what we could." Mag shook his head. He could understand how difficult it must have been for a father who had been putting in so much effort for his child. Mia hesitantly said, "Mr. Curtis, what do you plan to do after this?" Curtis was a little gloomy as he said, "The doctor said that nothing can be done. I plan to bring him back to the Orc tribe to meet his grandfather." Just then, Zixi stood up, and said to Curtis, "I am a healing magic caster. I cannot guarantee that I can cure your child, but if you don't mind, perhaps I can take a look at your child's condition." Curtis's eyes exploded with rays of hope as he quickly said, "Please do." Zixi walked towards the children who were playing, but did not give Kyle a checkup straight away. Instead, she played with the children and summoned a world tree under the pretense of a game. The green glow enveloped Kyle's body. "How can this be, Zixi had a sympathetic look on her face. She drove the world tree to inject the green glow into Kyle's body. A withered leaf fell from the tree, and Kyle's pale face regained a little color. Kyle, Curtis looked at Zixi, who walked back over, nervously. The others were also filled with anticipation. Zixi shook her head apologetically. The child's condition is very serious. His bodily functions are almost withering, and are continuing to wither. It is completely irreversible and uncontrollable. What I can do is only supplement him a little to slow down his condition for the time being, but this can only last for only around 10 days. 10 days, Curtis was a little disappointed, but he still bowed to Zixi and gratefully said, "Thank you." Everyone sighed silently. Zixi's words were akin to giving Kyle a death notice. 10 days was his final period in this world. System, can you do a check-up on Kyle's body with the omniscient door to see what illness he has? Is it treatable? Mag asked inside. It was really difficult to just watch helplessly. If the host wants to open the omniscient door outside the establishment, you need to pay a roaming fee, the system replied. 99 copper coins. Nothing more. Hey! Host, this is such a complicated process, and you're not even willing to give me 100. Isn't that a little too much? The system said angrily. Then 100 copper coins it is. Deal, the system said decisively. Starting the scan. Kyle, Orc, male. Suffering from acute leukemia. Already in the final stage of his illness. Mag looked at the information that surfaced in his brain, and his heart felt heavy. The final stage of acute leukemia would be equivalent to the death sentence. That was nothing different from Zixi's previous diagnosis. System, didn't you say you're almighty? Even Earth could develop targeted therapy. It shouldn't be a problem for you to develop some effective medicine to treat leukemia, right? Mag provoked. The system stands on the shoulders of human civilization. It is naturally no problem for me to develop an effective medicine, but this is a foreign world. As a candidate for the god of cookery, can't the host solve such a simple problem? Isn't this a problem that a simple dish can solve? The system said. Mag raised his brow. Was there a hidden meaning behind the system's words? Could there actually be a cure for leukemia among the dishes that he made? Host, the ingredients used in the restaurant are harvested in the various areas of the Norland continent where the essence of heaven and earth converge. If it was in the fantastical realm, then they would be the legendary treasures of the land. Just randomly throw a radish in, and that would be enough to cause a fight among those cultivating to be immortals. Let's just talk about the fiery pig in Fire Dragon Island. It feeds on the iron ore in the volcanic rock of Fire Dragon Island, which is rich in iron and has also absorbed the explosive attributes of the volcanic rocks. It can be considered a natural remedy for leukemia. Although I have always kept a very low profile, as a qualified candidate for the god of cookery, these things are very basic knowledge, host. You should know them. Otherwise, how can you serve the many dishes to your customers? The system's voice was filled with a rich sense of superiority. Mag could not be bothered about the system being pretentious, because to be able to rear a pig into a medicinal ingredient was indeed impressive. System, Kyle's leukemia is already in the final stage. Are you sure he can still recover after eating red braised pork made with fiery pig? Mag was slightly nervous. 500 grams of red braised pork eaten with white rice for 3 meals a day. 7 days make a course of treatment. He would be able to recover completely after 7 courses, the system replied. You're forcing me to become the new generation of the god of medicine. Mag thought with mixed emotions. However, the system's words were undeniably great news. Mag looked at Curtis, who was filled with melancholy, and said, Mr. Curtis. I am Mag, the owner of Mamie Restaurant, and also the owner of this ice cream shop. I've come across little Kyle's illness before, and I have an old remedy. If you believe me, perhaps we can give it a try. Are you serious? Curtis looked at Mag with surprise. He had brought little Kyle to countless famous physicians. There were a few who said that they had come across such symptoms, but those with such illnesses all died, and the doctors could not do anything about it. I've seen someone cured of this illness using this remedy. Mag nodded his head with certainty. At this juncture, he had to convince himself first. Otherwise, even he wouldn't be able to bring himself to say that they could depend on a bowl of red braised pork to cure leukemia. Mr. Mag, please save Kyle. I am willing to give up everything. I just hope for him to live. Curtis fell to his knees in front of Mag. Mr. Curtis, get up first. You don't have to do this. Mag quickly helped Curtis up. He looked at him, and said, to cure little Kyle's illness, bring him to Mamie restaurant from tomorrow onwards and order a serving of red braised pork with rice for 3 meals a day. Continue on for 49 days and he would be completely cured. The ice cream shop became silent. Everyone looked at Mag strangely. It was a strange disease that even nature magic could not heal, but Mag actually said that as long as he went to the restaurant and had red braised pork for 3 meals a day, he could be completely healed? Wasn't that too absurd? Curtis's jaw dropped too when he heard that. For a moment, he did not know what to say. This was the first time he heard someone say the words completely cured. He had tried so many cures, but to no avail, and watched as Kyle's condition worsened. Actually, he was already not holding on to much hope. This man runs a restaurant, after all, and not a medicinal hall. Besides, the old remedy he mentioned has nothing to do with herbs or treatments, but is to eat a specific dish in his restaurant. If he met him outside, he would definitely give this con man a slap in his face. But they had, after all, just organized such a thoughtfully planned birthday party for Kyle, and that magic caster even extended Kyle's life for 10 days. This Mr. Mag did not look like a con man, either. This put him in a difficult position. Boss Mag, the child's condition might be slightly more serious than you think. Zixie hesitated to speak as she looked at Mag. She knew that the dishes Mag made did have several extraordinary effects, and could even bring new life to her world tree. However, she had just checked on little Kyle's body, and his bodily functions were completely destroyed. Even using life magic was not able to save him. Even I wouldn't believe it after saying that. Mag looked at everyone's gaze. He felt a little helpless too. If it had been him, he would probably have already landed a punch on the other party's face. If Father says it can cure him, then it would definitely be able to cure him. I believe in Father, Amy, who walked over with a snowball in her hand, said with certainty as she looked at Mag. I believe in Uncle Mag too. Anna nodded. Seeing the trust in the two little fellows' gazes, Mag started to believe in himself too. He looked at Curtis calmly, and said, Mr. Curtis, you might find it a little incredible, but I can take responsibility for my words. Of course, you are little Kyle's father. You have the right to not believe me. Zixie looked at Mag's gaze, thought for a while, and did not speak further. She had always thought that Boss Mag was a mature and kind man. He definitely would not joke about something like this. He probably really had a way if he was able to say something so resolutely. Everyone slowly believed him. The restaurant was not lacking customers. Many who lined up were not even able to get a taste of it. Mag did not need to lie to make Curtis buy a set of red braised pork. Curtis was a little hesitant. If Kyle was really to depart, he would like to bring him back to their hometown because he had not been out of Chaos City before. But if what Mag said was true, he would miss a chance to save Kyle's life, and he would regret it for the rest of his life. Father, I want to try Uncle's suggestion. Just then, little Kyle walked over and reached out to hold Curtis's hand. He looked up at him. I still want to live on with you. Curtis's tears fell immediately. He wiped them away quickly and looked at Mag as he said, Mr. Mag, I believe you. I am willing to give you all my assets as long as it can cure Kyle. Please save him. Mag reached out to Curtis, who had gone down on his knees again, with a smile and shook his head as he said, "I don't want your assets. You just need to foot the bill for the meal every day. There are quite a lot of customers in the restaurant. Remember to bring the child earlier to line up." "All right, I will." Curtis nodded hard as his eyes gleamed with gratitude. The children played with the snow for a while more, and the birthday party ended on a happy note. When the door opened, the 3 children rushed out first. "It's snowing. It's really snowing." Amy's excited voice came from outside. Everyone walked out and was equally surprised. The soft snow fell slowly from the sky, looking extremely beautiful. "It's the first snow of the year. It came earlier than the previous years," Yabimiya said with a smile as she reached her hand out to catch the snowflakes and watch them melt on her palm. The children had been playing with snow for the entire night, but when they saw the snowflakes falling from the sky, they were still very excited. "All right, Amy, it's time to go. We still have to go to school tomorrow," Mag said with a smile. "Goodbye, everyone." Amy picked Ugly Duckling up and waved at the rest of them. She ran over to Mag and held his hand. The rest of them also parted. "Father, I am very happy today." "Thank you," Kyle said with a smile as he hugged his father in the horse-drawn carriage. "I am very happy too." Curtis held Kyle tightly, and gently said, "It's all going to be fine. You will recover very soon, and when that happens, you will be able to have a snow fight with the children in the snow." "Really?" "Of course." After washing up, Amy lay on her little bed and used Ugly Duckling's tummy as a hand warmer. She looked at Mag, who was sitting by the bed, expectantly and said, "Father, would the entire world be covered in snow tomorrow morning?" "If the snow is heavy enough tonight, that should be the case." Mag nodded with a smile. He calculated the days. According to the Earth's calendar, it was almost the new year. He wondered if that desolate house would be able to remain lively with gatherings without him, but it would probably be as desolate as it usually was. "That's great. It's going to be super beautiful," Amy said happily as her eyes shone. Mag looked at Amy, who was full of smiles, and he suddenly felt something inside. He had already forgotten how long it had been since he had last celebrated the New Year properly, because every New Year, there were always people missing at home, and he also slowly became one of those who did not appear. But it's different now. He had Amy, and spending the New Year with her would probably be interesting, like how they spent Mid-Autumn Festival together, right? "Father, what story are you telling me today?" Amy asked. "Today, Father will tell you the story of Nian," Mag said with a smile. "Once upon a time, in a place called China, there lived a monster called Nian. It has sharp horns on its head, and was very fierce and scary." Reunion dinner. Amy's eyes lit up. She looked at Mag expectantly, and said, "Does staying up throughout the night mean that the dinner lasts until daybreak?" Meow. Ugly Duckling also peeked its little head out and looked at Mag. Mag was slightly taken aback. He smiled and nodded. "You can think of it that way. Then it must be super blissful." Amy looked at Mag longingly, and said, "Father, let's celebrate New Year too. Let's also have a reunion dinner, the kind that lasts till daybreak. If little Amy wants to celebrate New Year, then we shall celebrate it." Mag nodded with a smile. He thought for a while, and continued, "But we would have to wait for around a month before it's New Year. Father said that when we celebrate New Year, everyone will reunite. Then what about Mother? Will she come back? Would she be celebrating the New Year with us?" Amy looked at Mag expectantly. Mag felt his heart tighten a little as he met Amy's gaze. Although she had seen Irina previously at Rodu, they had only spent a short amount of time together, and Amy did not know that she was her mother. The situation in the elf tribe was still unknown. He was not powerful enough, and Irina could not bear to leave her pitiful people, so it was still unknown when Amy could acknowledge her and their family could reunite. He struggled inside to answer that question. I am very happy as long as I can be with father. Amy seemed to have noticed Mag's hesitation, and she smiled sweetly at him before closing her eyes obediently as she said, "Good night, father." Mag looked at the obedient child and felt uneasy. He stood up and kissed Amy gently on her forehead, saying, "Good night, little Amy." Ugly Duckling buried its head back under the covers and fell quickly asleep as it held Amy's little hand. Power, how worrying. Mag sighed. He left quietly and went downstairs to put on his apron again. He closed the door to the kitchen and continued trying to figure out the way to make beggar's chicken. The Wind Forest. In a dim, large hall, a middle-aged elf looked worryingly at Borg, who was sitting on an elevated platform, and anxiously said, "Master, Irina already gathered hundreds of rebelling elves outside the Wind Forest at the southwestern corner to form a rebel army. In addition, there were still elves joining her over the past few days. They are getting larger day by day. What should we do? It's just a rebel army formed by a mere few hundred lowly elves. What's so surprising about that?" Borg smiled stiffly. "But this is a great chance to get rid of Irina legitimately. Just let her continue for a while more. The day she starts invading the Wind Forest is when she and those fools meet their death. But High Priestess Helena, that old hag, should be even more anxious than us. She was the one who had been attempting to unite the elf tribe, and whatever Irina is doing now is akin to giving her a slap in her face. I want to see how long she can put up with this. She would still have to come to me sooner or later." "Jack, Jack," a chilly laugh echoed around the hall. "High Priestess, there are another 30 elves who joined the rebel army. Other than slaves, there are 6 who came from noble families." A figure rushed into Starry Cave. Helena's face was as cold as ice. She coldly said, "Have you found out who they are? The masters of the families are already kneeling outside the cave, seeking forgiveness. Should I let them in? No. Give them 50 beatings each as a warning, then lock their eldest son up in jail. Tell them if it happens again, they would have no more heirs. Spread the word. One rebellion and the entire family suffers." "Yes." That elf left quickly. "Irina, are you trying to ruin the Queen's and my efforts over the centuries?" Helena looked up at the brightest star in the sky and coldly said, "Although I brought you up, if you're really bent on doing this, then I can only kill you." Outside the Wind Forest, in a canyon at the southwestern side, the basic shape of a fortress was already formed. A thin silhouette stood at the highest point of the fortress as she looked out quietly over the Wind Forest. Her white dress danced in the wind, and even the night could not mask her beauty. "Princess, the 3 layers of defense are completed. However, I'm afraid they would not be able to stop 10th tier intruders," a young elf said politely to her back. His eyes were burning with admiration. In the short time span of a few days, a rebel army was gathered outside the Wind Forest, and there were still endless streams of elves rushing over from the Wind Forest. She exuded with an aura that would make one revere her. Her speech about freedom was an epiphany for many elves. They were not afraid even if they were to face death. "If we have 10th tier intruders, I will deal with them," Irina said calmly. "Yes," that elf replied and left quickly. "The situation is better than expected. A free spirit will never be restrained. Wait for a while more, and it will be time to attack." Irina smiled. After a while, she turned towards the south. "Little Amy, give me a while more. We will soon be able to be together." Wow! The world has really turned white. Amy woke up the moment the sky brightened up. She walked to the window and drew the curtains apart to see the world covered in white. "It really is." Mag got up and walked to the window to take a look. A thick layer of snow covered the world. On top of trees, roofs, statues, it was white everywhere. The snow had accumulated to a thickness of 10 centimeters over the night, and it looked just like a world from a fairy tale. "Meow, meow." Ugly Duckling leaned on the window excitedly as well. "Father, I want to play with the snow." Amy said as she turned to look at Mag. Sure, but you must be warmly dressed and you must wear your gloves. Mag nodded his head lovingly. He put on a thick jacket for Amy and helped her put on a pair of waterproof woolen gloves before he let her go out to play. Ugly Duckling followed behind Amy eagerly and fell deep into the snow. After a while, it managed to struggle free and fell right into another pile of snow. Curtis brought Kyle over to the restaurant to line up early in the morning. The word Nian is also year, and celebrating the new year, Guo Nian, is also literally passing the Nian. I am not afraid of bitterness. I will finish it all even if it is bitter. Kyle nodded with a tiny smile on his face. Curtis patted Kyle's head, feeling a little heartache for him. This little guy had been eating all kinds of medicine recently. Most of them were so bitter that even adults found them hard to swallow. Mag saw Curtis and his son at the very front of the line when he was going to send Amy to school. He smiled and nodded at them. Amy greeted them too before they left on the bicycle. There are so many people. Uncle Mag must be a very outstanding chef, right? Yes, he should. Curtis nodded in agreement. This was the first time he had seen a long line forming in front of a restaurant even before it was open for business. The restaurant started its service, and the customers began to enter gradually. Curtis and Kyle took a seat near the window. Kyle sized up the restaurant curiously, and wondrously said, "This restaurant is so beautiful, just like the ice cream shop." "Yes, it is." Curtis nodded in agreement as he gazed around slightly taken aback. He had been to most restaurants in Chaos City, but none was as exquisitely decorated as this. "How do you do, little Kyle?" Yabimiya said to Kyle with a smile as she approached the table. "Nice to see you, big sister Mia," little Kyle also answered happily. He really liked this big sister who knew how to make delicious ice cream. "Miss Mia, we would like to have a helping of red braised pork please," Curtis said to Yabimiya. "Sure." Mia nodded with a smile, and continued, "Is Mr. Curtis going to order breakfast for himself too? Boss's culinary skills are really awesome." Curtis pondered as he looked at little Kyle who was sitting next to him before he smilingly said, "Then, I shall have a red braised pork set meal too." "All right, please wait a moment." Yabimiya smiled and nodded as she walked toward the kitchen. Delicious food was the cure for everything. The customers' orders were served gradually. Although all the different races were sitting together, there wasn't any chaos. All the customers were enjoying their breakfast quietly with happy smiles on their faces. Seeing them made one feel relaxed and happy. Gulp. Kyle couldn't help but swallow his saliva when he looked at an elf next to him eating the young Joe fried rice with grace and happiness. "These are your red braised pork. Please enjoy them." Yabimiya placed 2 bowls of red braised pork and 2 bowls of rice in front of Curtis and Kyle before she smiled and turned away. "Smells so good." The aroma from the red braised pork greeted them, and made Curtis and Kyle shift their attention from that young Joe fried rice to the red braised pork. The red braised pork, which was glistening with layers of lean and fatty meat, was held in a black terracotta bowl. Its thick and rich aroma was so strong and aggressive that it couldn't be ignored. It wasn't fat and greasy like the fatty meat they saw normally. The bright red color was so enticing that one almost forgot how the fatty meat looked originally. "So, this is the red braised pork?" Kyle asked in disbelief. In his imagination, all the medicine that was supposed to cure him gave off a nauseating bitter and smelly taste. However, the red braised pork in front of him gave off such an enticing aroma that made him salivate. There was amazement in Curtis's eyes too. He passed a long spoon to Kyle as he smilingly said, "Yes. Let's try it." He didn't know if Mag's method would work. He was still feeling very worried. He had gambled everything, and now he was hoping for a miracle that could stop Kyle's suffering from his illness. Kyle took the long spoon and reached into the bowl. He was trying to cut the red braised pork into half as the whole piece was too big for him. Curtis was about to help as it wasn't easy to cut open a piece of meat with a spoon. However, Kyle's spoon cut open the skin easily, and separated the red braised pork into halves without any resistance. The red braised pork that was separated was soft but still holding up. The interior was still bright red as the glistening red gravy had already seeped into the meat. I am going to start eating. Kyle put half of the red braised pork into his mouth. The sweet gravy woke his dormant taste buds instantly. The taste buds that were tortured by all sorts of weird medicine began to cheer ecstatically as if they were having their first drops of water amidst a drought. Under the chewy skin was the fatty meat that melted away as soon as it entered the mouth. Sweet and soft, fatty yet not greasy. The sweet gravy was released with a gentle bite, and a beautiful taste erupted upon his taste buds. This long-lost scrumptious taste made little Kyle want to cheer. He had forgotten about all the painful experiences during this whole period of time. Everything seemed insignificant in front of such a delicacy. The pain on his body seemed to disappear as well. At this moment, he only wanted to immerse himself in the taste of the red braised pork. As he swallowed a mouthful of the red braised pork, little Kyle could feel a warmth flow down his throat and into his body. The pain in his body that was brought by his sickness was obviously getting milder. Kyle opened his eyes with a surprised look on his blushing face, and said to Curtis, "Oh, it's so delicious. Father, this is the most delicious food I have ever eaten apart from ice cream." "Then eat more," Curtis said smilingly. "Yes." Kyle nodded as he scooped a spoonful of rice into his mouth and chewed hard. He felt that even this normal rice began to taste so sweet and delicious. A mouthful of red braised pork and a mouthful of rice, he ate very enthusiastically. There was a happy smile on his face as he immersed himself in it. Curtis watched Kyle with gratification. During this whole period of time, Kyle had never enjoyed a good meal due to his body's condition. He could only eat a few mouthfuls before he had to stop. He didn't expect he would take the initiative to eat today. "Is it really so delicious?" Curtis had a hint of doubt in his eyes. He used the chopsticks to pick up a piece of red braised pork and ate it. A scrumptious taste exploded in his mouth, and made Curtis's eyes lit up instantly. "This taste! It's incredible! How could there be such delicious food in this world? It is just normal meat, so how did he make it so delicious?" Ding! Both of them hit the bottom of their bowls at the same time and smiled at each other. It had been some time since they had seen such relaxed expressions on each other's faces. Curtis got nervous suddenly as he asked Kyle, "Do you feel anything, Kyle? Are there any reactions in your body after eating this red braised pork?" "Feel?" Kyle looked at his hands and curled them into fists tightly with amazement as he said, "Father, I feel that my strength is back and my body is not hurting anymore." "Really? Your body is not hurting anymore?" Curtis stood up immediately, feeling shocked and happy at the same time. Even his voice was shaking. The customers all looked toward him, wondering why was this orc so happy. Making a racket was not allowed in Mamie restaurant. However, it was weird that the service staff who usually stopped the customers from behaving inappropriately weren't stopping him. Instead, they were all watching quietly with a smile. "Yes, it's true." Kyle closed his eyes to confirm before he nodded with conviction. The pain in his body worsened as his sickness advanced. However, he learned to make himself appear not to be in so much pain gradually as time went on in order to lessen his father's suffering. But after eating that red braised pork, he indeed felt that most of the pain in his body had disappeared. Although there was still some discomfort, it was almost negligible compared to his previous pain. "This is great!" Curtis hugged Kyle in his arms as tears of joy flowed down from his eyes. He had experienced the process of going from hope to despair too many times in the past several months. He had even thought of ending both his and Kyle's lives so he didn't have to suffer anymore. Finally, he had seen a real glimpse of hope. It was really effective. "Boss is awesome!" Yabimiya thought with amazement as she gazed at Mag with admiration. "Can red braised pork cure illness? Did boss actually put medication in the dishes?" Shirley looked at Mag suspiciously. Everyone was looking at Mag differently. They knew little Kyle's illness was very severe, but he became so energetic just after eating a bowl of red braised pork. Was that still considered a delicacy? It was a miracle drug. Although Kyle was also feeling very excited, he could feel all the gazes upon them, so he began to whisper, "Father, I think we have affected others' dining experience." Curtis realized his gaffe too. He quickly wiped away his tears and stood up to nod apologetically to the other customers. Then, he held on to Kyle's hand and brought him to the kitchen's entrance to bow deeply to Mag. He appreciatively said, "Thank you so much, Mr. Mag." "Don't mention it." Mag shook his head with a smile on his face too. A hint of blush began to return to Kyle's pale face, and he felt much more alert. It seemed that the system didn't lie to Mag. Red braised pork was indeed a super effective cure for Kyle. Curtis expressed his gratitude to Mag again. He didn't want to disturb Mag while he was cooking, so he left with Kyle after he settled the bill. He brought Kyle to join the line early at noon again so they wouldn't miss the opening hours. He didn't doubt Mag's words at all now. All he wanted was to bring Kyle to eat the red braised pork at Mamie restaurant for every meal, see him recover from his illness gradually, and eventually get rid of the sickness totally. There would be no painful therapy, only the happiness of enjoying good food. He had already decided to bring Kyle back to their tribe to meet their elders after he fully recovered. "It is a rough day today. Please go back to have a good rest early," Mag said to everyone with a smile after they ended the opening hours for the night. Unknowingly, Mamie restaurant had become a big family. Mia, Babla, Ferris, Shirley, Anna, and Elizabeth got along very well in their daily interactions. This made Mag feel rather gratified. Everyone bade their farewells and left. "Father, do you feel like you are watching your harem?" Amy asked curiously. "Yup. Yup." Mag raised his eyebrows and rapidly shook his head as he righteously said, "Why would I be such a person? And, Amy, where did you hear this harem term from?" Ever since Irina had successfully incited the defection of Amy, he always felt he had a time bomb that could go off any time next to him. And now, that feeling had gotten even more intense. "Big sister Camilla told me that," Amy replied honestly. It was her indeed. Mag was angry, and yet felt like laughing at the same time. That countess who was a little self-absorbed had taken him as her love rival because of Gloria, but there wasn't anything going on between him and Miss Gloria at all. He guessed that was how the saying "a man sits at home, and the disaster comes from heaven" felt like. Mag couldn't simply ignore this. Clearing his throat, he said, "This." Her description was actually incorrect. "Your big sister Mia and the gang are the service staff of the restaurant, and I am the boss. The relationship between us is the employer and employee relationship, and not a harem." "Is that really so?" Amy asked Mag doubtfully. "Of course it is." Mag nodded determinedly without even a blink of his eyes. He had to display his determination at this kind of time, or else he wouldn't know what Amy would tell Irina when they met up again. This was a matter of life and death. "But why are all the big sisters so pretty?" Amy asked curiously again. This, Mag was at a loss for words. It was difficult to explain to a child that he liked to look at pretty girls. No matter how he explained, it would sound like he was preparing his harem. Right at this moment, a golden beam lit up on the restaurant's floor, and an old and simplistic teleportation portal appeared. At the same time, a magic wave appeared. "Someone's coming over again? Are they looking for Bablat?" Mag carried Amy up and backed away from the range of the teleportation portal with an alert expression. All the hair on Ugly Duckling, which was lying on the counter, stood up at once. It leaped down from the counter and went over to hug Mag's leg. It sat on his leg with a nervous look in its face. "What is that?" Amy asked curiously. The golden beam became glaring suddenly, and then instantly disappeared. A figure also appeared in the empty space in the center of the restaurant. It was a beautiful woman who had a head of golden red hair and was wearing seashells and seaweed clothing. Holy! Holy! Water! Water! She passed out just after saying a few words. She was wearing a seaweed skirt that was already slightly dried up. The lower part was torn, and beneath the torn skirt was a pair of smooth and long legs. She wasn't wearing shoes on her feet. Her fair and delicate feet looked like little lotus roots. They were rosy, fair, and very enticing. Although he didn't have a foot fetish, Mag couldn't help but stare at those feet for a while. He was perplexed. Judging from this girl's attire, could she be living by the sea? However, why was she teleported here, and fainted immediately upon arrival? Such a beautiful big sister! Amy's eyes lit up, and then she asked Mag, "Father, are you going to recruit her into your harem?" Hey! Mag raised his eyebrows. This little one was beginning to sprout nonsense. How could she make this kind of statement? Even if he was thinking about... Oh no, he wasn't thinking about it at all. However, before Mag could explain, a rainbow beam suddenly lit up on the girl on the floor. The beam disappeared very rapidly, and her smooth and long legs became a big fish tail with rainbow scales. Her upper body remained human. Hey! She transformed. Amy was shocked before she curiously said, "So, is this a big sister manfish or big sister fishman? Could she be a legendary mermaid?" Mag stared at the woman who suddenly transformed into half human and half fish with a weird expression. However, the girl's complexion was pale and her brows were tightly furrowed. She seemed to be in a bad condition. He quickly squatted down to carry her up and walked toward the door. This mermaid wasn't heavy. She should be only around 40 kilograms. Her scales were smooth and cold, unlike the sticky feel of the usual fishes. She also had a nice smell. "Father, even though you want to prove you don't want this big sister mermaid in your harem, it isn't nice to throw her out like this," Amy said as she followed after Mag. "Meow, meow." Ugly Duckling followed up quickly too as it stared at that giant fish tail as if it was huge prey. It was tempted. "I am not throwing her out. I just want to find out why she fainted," Mag said in exasperation. "I think you can't bear to do it," Amy mumbled. Mag, suddenly, he could understand how other people felt when Amy rendered them speechless. Gina, merfolk, 18 years old. Power fluctuates between 0 to 8 tier, her power increases with her hydration. In a critical stage of dehydration currently. Gina. Mag looked at the test result given by the omniscient door in his mind. So, this beautiful mermaid was called Gina, and she didn't faint because she was injured. Instead, she was severely dehydrated. Therefore, the words that she mumbled before she fainted were most likely water. Mag swiftly lowered her onto a chair at a side and strode to the kitchen. He took a big kettle and filled it up with water. He pried open her dried and cracked lips gently and slowly poured the water in. But, Gina immediately threw up when the water went in and her breathing began to hasten. Her complexion became even paler. "Father, what's wrong with this big sister mermaid?" Amy asked concernedly. "Shouldn't we replenish water for dehydration?" Mag was confused, and then he carried Gina toward the door again. "Father, I think we can still save this big sister mermaid. Don't throw her out so hastily." "I am not throwing her out. I know you can't bear to." Gina, merfolk, 18 years old. Power fluctuates between 0 to 8 tier, her power increases with her hydration. In a critical stage of dehydration currently. Coupled with severe freshwater allergy and dyspnea. She is a sea product some more. Mag raised his eyebrows as he looked at the mermaid who was almost suffocating in his arms. He rushed upstairs with her quickly. "Father, even though big sister mermaid is unconscious, you doing this, is not really very nice," Amy murmured as she looked at Mag's back. Mag, who was carrying Miss Mermaid upstairs, almost tripped and fell. Dumbfounded, he turned and said to Amy, Amy, bring a can of table salt up. This big sister mermaid really needs a drink or it's bye-bye for her. Alrighty, Amy acknowledged and carried a stool into the kitchen. She retrieved the can of table salt on the condiments shelf with some difficulty as she tiptoed on the stool. Then, she ran upstairs. The bathtub was filled with water, and a can of table salt was added into the water according to the seawater's salt content, which was about 35%. I hope there is not much difference between the salt content of the seawater in this world and Earth's. Mag lowered the mermaid, who had almost stopped breathing, into the bathtub. Bubble, bubble. Along with a series of bubbling sounds, the beautiful mermaid sunk to the bottom of the bathtub, and then remained very still. Father, is the big sister mermaid already gone bye-bye? Meow. Ugly Duckling sat at a side and kept staring at the big fish tail that was out of the bathtub. She should be still breathing. Mag wasn't too sure, either. Other than blowing out a small bubble every now and then from her mouth, this mermaid didn't move at all. She did indeed look like she was dead. Then, should we at least try to revive her? I heard my teacher say in class that we should perform mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, Amy continued. This is one good solution. Mag nodded as he wondered. He should do chest compressions if the heart stopped, right? Mag's gaze landed upon the mermaid's chest. These seashells were a little in the way, right? Amy propped against the bathtub, and nervously said, Father, save her now. I think that this big sister mermaid can't breathe already. Since this is the case, I will have to sacrifice myself. Mag nodded seriously before he rolled up his sleeves and reached out for the mermaid in the bathtub. Whoosh! Right at this moment, the mermaid, who wasn't moving much, suddenly swiped her tail and splashed water all over Mag and Amy, soaking them through. It seems that she is really fine now. Mag nodded too. Although this mermaid had not awoken, she was breathing out bubbles like a fish in the tub happily with a smile on her face. She looked well enough. He took a dry towel and wiped away the salt water on Amy's face before he used a wet one to wipe over her face again. Mag gazed at the mermaid in the tub with a troubled expression. What should they do if they needed to take a bath from now on? Father, I would like to swim in the bathtub and breathe underwater like Big Sister Mermaid, Amy said to Mag expectantly. That won't do. Amy is a human. You need to breathe air and you can't breathe underwater. Mag shook his head. Then, why can Big Sister Mermaid do it? Amy looked at the bubbling mermaid puzzledly. Because she is a mermaid. Therefore, she is able to breathe in the water like a fish. However, she has also similarly lost her ability to breathe and live on land. This is fair, Mag said with a smile. Okay. Amy nodded with a thoughtful expression. She held onto Mag's hand. In this case, I will live on land so I can stay with Father. Let's wash up and prepare to go to bed. Looking at her condition, she won't wake up so soon. Mag patted Amy's head smilingly. He gave Amy a shower, and he used a towel to wipe himself outside to replace a bath. Father, does Big Sister Mermaid live in the sea? I thought only the fishes live in the sea. Why could she live in the sea too? Amy asked curiously as she lay in bed. Maybe they are a kind of special existence, Mag said smilingly. There were very little written records about the sirens in the history of Norland continent. At least in the last 1,000 years, there were almost no records about merfolk at all. He wondered if her existence was fortuitous, or merfolk had always existed somewhere in the deep sea. Mag was leaning toward the latter because according to the test result of the omniscient door, this mermaid should have an 8th tier power if she was in the deep sea. Hybrid species that occurred accidentally definitely would not have such powerful capabilities. Her evolution wasn't problematic. To a certain extent, it was almost perfect. Whether it was that beautiful fishtail or exquisite features and perfect figure, they all displayed the perfection of evolution. Looking at Amy's curious gaze, Mag smilingly said, I will tell Amy a story about a little mermaid today. Yes, yes. Amy's eyes lit up, and she nodded her tiny head. In the very, very deep sea, there was a majestic castle, and 6 mermaid princesses lived there. They were all very beautiful, especially the youngest one. She had long blonde hair and was more beautiful than all of her sisters. She loved to listen to her sisters talk about interesting new stuff above the sea. As a result, the little princess always wished to go above the sea to take a look herself. She waited, and on the little princess's 15th birthday, Mag's voice became deeper along the Little Mermaid's story. Amy listened attentively. She was happy to hear that the Little Mermaid met a prince, agonized when she heard that she drank the witch's potion in order to see the prince again, and sad when she heard that the Little Mermaid couldn't speak when the prince was going to marry another girl. At dawn, the mermaid princess stood on the deck and murmured to herself, "Goodbye, my prince." And the princess's body slowly dissolved into many colorful bubbles. Mag ended the story in a low tone of voice. Amy sniffed with her nose as she whimsically said, "Ah, the Little Mermaid is such a poor thing. Men are all indecent." Mag shook his head with a smile. His daughter even scolded him when she was angry. "So father, did Big Sister Mermaid come to the restaurant because she wanted to see you?" Hence, she had legs but couldn't speak. Amy interrogated Mag. "Do you have a castle? Have you ever fallen into the sea from a boat before? Were you rescued? And then you met my mother? That must have been the case. You believed mother was the person who saved you, and so you married her. Then, Big Sister Mermaid drank the witch's potion and came here to look for you." Amy sighed, and piteously said, "It's so pitiful." Anyone who had heard this would have cried. Did that really happen? Mag was confused. After Amy said all that, he had almost believed that he had let that beautiful mermaid down and he was an indecent man. However, if this scenario had happened in his previous life, the story would have been very different. Although he wasn't a prince, he did have a castle near the sea. He could indeed keep a little mermaid who could spread her legs, and they could spend their days together without any restraint. Hold it right there. That would be another story. However, there were parts of Amy's words that made Mag curious. That mermaid did have legs when she first appeared. Also, she indeed couldn't make out a proper sentence when they first met. Even the words she said didn't make much sense. Why did this mermaid leave the sea and come here? This was a question worth getting to the bottom of. All right, it's time to sleep. There is school tomorrow. You can ask that Big Sister Mermaid if you have any questions tomorrow. Mag smoothed Amy's hair with a smile. Okay. Amy sat up, hugged Mag, and kissed him on his cheek. She smilingly said, "Good night, father." "Good night, Amy." Mag kissed Amy back on her forehead. He tucked her under the blanket and switched off the lights. That night, Mag had a dream. He dreamt that he was about to asphyxiate after he fell into the water, and he saw a mermaid swam toward him vaguely. She had a beautiful tail and mesmerizing movements. She swam in the sea agilely just like a real fish and reached him very soon. Then, Mag saw a word on its face. System. This was really a scary nightmare. Chapter 1020. What are you doing with Big Sister Mermaid in there? That was a pair of enviable long legs. In order to obtain a pair of legs like that, she had to suffer through a lot before she could barely obtain them, but they simply just grew on him. Did I finally find the chosen one? Happiness exploded in Gina's heart. She wanted to speak, but her throat felt as if it had been burnt by fire. Then, that man poked an unknown object into her mouth, and a stream of nauseating liquid was poured into her mouth. She couldn't help but start to throw up. At that instant, she thought she was going to die from suffocation. This chosen one was a bad egg. That was her only thought before she passed out totally. Gina thought she was dead. She had found the chosen one, but before she could even utter a word, she died in his arms. She had left the sea for too long, and lost the most important bag of seawater. There wasn't any seawater on this continent. Even the Chosen One wouldn't be able to save her. Furthermore, the Chosen One was a bad egg. However, after some time, she suddenly felt the surroundings of her body become warm and comfortable, just as if she had returned to the sea. Comfortable water nourished her body, and her stiff body was beginning to regain some feeling. The tiredness accumulated in the past few days quickly washed over her, and she went into a deeper sleep. She was sleeping very comfortably as if she was in her own home. Am I already dead? After some time, Gina opened her eyes slowly and all she saw was white. In front, behind, her left, and her right. She felt as if she was in an enclosed coffin. Even turning over her body was an extremely difficult task to achieve. Only the nobility in Lantist would use a crystal coffin for burial. It was a very ancient tradition. Given her status, she could indeed use a coffin after her death. But, didn't I see the Chosen One after my third teleportation? Was that only a dream of mine? Did I actually return to the boundless sea during my last teleportation? Even though I didn't complete my mission, the High Priest wouldn't have buried me alive, right? There were a lot of question marks in Gina's heart. The seawater surrounding her had the taste she was familiar with. Apart from being clean, there was almost no difference with the seawater from Boundless Sea. There absolutely wasn't any seawater on the continent, because the water on the continent was like poison to them, the merfolk. Shhh. Right at this moment, a relaxing whistling and water splashing sounds could be heard. What's that sound? Gina was ecstatic. She wasn't dead, so why was she buried alive in a coffin? Although she was brought up with refined manners, she would rather be killed instantly than to be tortured and die slowly in an enclosed space like this. The desperation for survival made her try to do something, for example, struggle. Whoosh! The big fish tail created a big splash and landed hard, making a loud sound. What the hell? Mag, who just woke up and was relieving the pressure in his bladder in front of the toilet bowl, shook his hands and almost jumped up. The bathroom had wet and dry segregation, but this sound wasn't segregated. This sound gave Mag a shock. He was still a little befuddled initially, and now he was totally awake. He pulled up his zipper hurriedly and stared at his hand, feeling very unlucky. Then, he turned on the tap to wash his hands, and looked toward the bathtub in a panic. He had a nightmare last night, so he woke up in a daze and almost forgot he had a mermaid in his bathtub. Listening to the movements, she was most probably awake. He just wondered what she was doing, creating such a big hoo-ha. Father, what are you doing with Big Sister Mermaid in there? Why are you making such loud noises? Amy's knocking could be heard. I am just washing my face, but she seems to be awake, Mag said to Amy as he immediately opened the door. It was a good thing that he hadn't gone in, or else he wouldn't be able to explain himself. But, your face is dry. Amy pointed at Mag's face. I just started with washing my hands. Mag's hands shook. An oversight on his part. He didn't expect the little one to have such a keen perception. Gina heard the voices out there and quieted down instantly. She listened in carefully, but she couldn't understand their conversation at all. She couldn't help but nervously think, who are they? Why can't I understand what they are saying at all? Maybe I didn't go back to the boundless sea realm, but instead I went to some other sea realm? Could it be there's other merfolk living there too? Or maybe they are some other species that live underwater? Amy was simply casually asking. She walked toward the bathroom, and said, Is Big Sister Mermaid really awake? Then, let's go and see how she is doing. She must be uncomfortable sleeping in the bathtub alone. Be careful. She has just woken up and may not understand her situation now, so there could be misunderstanding. Mag quickly stepped forward and kept Amy behind him before he pushed the segregation door open gently. In the quiet bathroom, a mermaid was lying face down in the bathtub, not moving at all. If it wasn't for the puddles of water on the floor and slightly rippling water in the bathtub, there would not be much difference from the scene last night. Gina listened for the movements out there nervously. She could sense that two figures were closing in on her, but she was trapped there. The seawater was too shallow for her to maneuver, as she couldn't even stretch her arms. She didn't know if the people out there were hostile, but she had already begun to prepare her magic. If there was danger, she could defend herself instantly. Amy stood at the bathroom entrance, and adorably said, "Big Sister Mermaid, are you awake? I am Amy, and this is my father. We saved you and we are not hostile." This voice sounded so cute, like a little girl. But what exactly was she talking about? There seems to be no hostility at all, but I cannot understand them. Can they understand what I am going to say? Gina waved her tail in a panic, and said, "Let me out. I am still alive and can be saved." Besides, she even let out a series of gurgling sounds. Her voice was very crisp and pleasing to the ear, but even Mag, who had mastered the languages of two worlds, could not understand even a single word. It sounded a little like Russian, but he was certain it was a language he could not understand. Meow. Ugly duckling peeked its head out from between their legs. It stared straight at the huge tail that hung out from the bathtub as though it was looking at its breakfast. "Father, what is Big Sister Mermaid saying?" Amy looked at Mag curiously. "I don't understand her, either." Mag shook his head. He carefully observed the mermaid, who was still unable to flip over, and hesitantly said, "Maybe she wants to flip over. Then let's help her." "She looks pretty anxious," Amy said sympathetically. Gina was indeed very anxious. Although this restrictive coffin was large enough for her with some space to move on the left and right, for someone who lived in the wide ocean, being trapped in a small place like this was simply unacceptable, not to mention that she might be trapped until she died. However, she could not understand the language of the people outside, and they would probably not be able to understand her, either. As the Princess of Lantist, she might actually die from starvation here because of the language barrier. She felt so aggrieved that she wanted to cry. The moment she thought of that, her tears started falling uncontrollably, and when her tears fell, they became blue tear-shaped pearls and landed at the bottom of the bathtub. Boo-hoo! The sound of crying came from the bathtub, and that mermaid lay at the bottom of the bathtub, crying as though she had given up struggling. Big Sister Mermaid is so huge. Why must she cry so pitifully just because she can't flip over? Could there be other reasons? Amy walked to the bathtub and tiptoed to peek curiously. Maybe it's because she was also accidentally teleported over like Babla? Could it have something to do with the Moon Nation? Mag thought with a frown. No one knew how many places the teleportation portal at the restaurant was linked to. She's already the second one. Mag walked to the bathtub and looked at the crying mermaid as he said, "Miss Mermaid, is it convenient for you to flip over and talk?" Although I can't understand what he's saying, this voice sounded very gentle. I think it came from above. Could there be someone on top? Gina turned her head slowly, wanting to look up when she heard the voice, but her neck could only turn to a maximum of 90 degrees, and she still could not see what was above. What's there to look at? Isn't there still a cover on top? Boo-hoo! Gina felt even more aggrieved and lost all motivation to flip over in an instant. Although she really wanted to take a look at what the man with the gentle voice looked like, she still might be trapped here forever. Are you really that lazy? Without another choice, Mag reached into the bathtub, grabbed one side of the mermaid's shoulder gently, and flipped her over to face up. Gina felt a warm and strong hand grab her shoulder. Immediately, the world spun and she was flipped over. It's empty. There's no cover. Gina blinked, a little dumbfounded. This was not the bottom of the sea, and it seemed that it was air outside of the area she was lying in. Could she still be on land? But why would there be such a small piece of the ocean on land? The bottom of the sea is white and the shore is white, how could such a place exist? She saw the bright light and a large and a small figure standing at the side. She was stunned for a moment. Gina focused and noticed the two figures on the side. Her gaze fell on the little girl who was leaning over the white shore. What a cute little girl! Gina's eyes lit up. Her large blue eyes glimmer and a lock of her silver hair curls up, making her look extra cute. Not to mention those sharp little ears. Could she be the kind elf that the high priest mentioned? Hello, big sister mermaid. Amy waved her little hand at Gina. She liked the pretty big sister, even though she might not understand her. Although Gina could not understand the little girl, she could feel her kindness, so she also smiled and nodded at Amy. After that, her gaze fell on the figure beside her. She froze for 3 seconds and sat right up in an instant. She grabbed Mag's hand, and agitatedly said, "Chosen one. I've finally found you. I had such a hard time looking for you. Big sister mermaid really seems to know father? Could she really have saved father? Did she drink the witch's potion so that she could see father again? Should I tell this to big sister Irina?" Amy mumbled to herself as she studied the hand that was holding Mag tightly and Gina's emotional face. Miss, I think you've gotten the wrong person." Mag was also taken aback. Although he could not understand her, based on her expression, it seemed like she knew him and she probably came to look for him. However, in his and Alex's memory, there was nothing concerning merfolk. Gina's breathing started quickening when she suddenly left the water and was exposed to the air. However, how would she bear to let go when the chosen one that she had taken pains to look for was right before her? She was afraid that if she let go, she would wake up from this dream. "Father, it took big sister mermaid so much difficulty to find you, how can you be so heartless and pretend not to know her? She even drank the witch's potion and lost her voice just to see you again. How can you bear to let her go like this?" Amy said as she looked at Gina sympathetically. In this instant, even Mag could not help but ask himself, "Am I really such scum?" Meow! Just then, Ugly Duckling also leaned over the bathtub and peeked its head out. Gina turned to look out of reflex, and she suddenly lost all color in her face. She curled her tail and leaped straight out of the bathtub, hitting the ceiling with a bang, and then crashed back into the bathtub like a frightened mouse. She hid her head underneath her tail as she curled up in a corner, shivering. Gina could not help but cry again, her shoulders trembling from fear. What's she up to again? Mag looked at the trembling mermaid curled up in the corner of the bathtub with bewilderment. "Miss, although you are considered a fish, you're still a mermaid after all. Isn't it embarrassing to be so frightened by an orange fatty? Ugly Duckling, stick your head back. You're so ugly you've frightened big sister mermaid," Amy said sternly to Ugly Duckling. Meow! Ugly Duckling looked at Amy with grievance and retracted its sharp claws silently. Then, it put its paws down from the rim of the bathtub and hid behind Amy. "Don't you peek your head out casually anymore. If you frighten her and make her cry, I can only throw you away." Amy looked at Ugly Duckling, and sternly said, "I can't stand such embarrassment." Meow! Ugly Duckling nodded with grievance. "Miss Mermaid, it's all right now. We won't harm you," Mag said as gently as he could as he looked at the mermaid who could roll up into a ball flexibly. After waiting for a while and seeing that the scary cat still had not pounced over, and then hearing Mag's gentle voice, Gina hesitated for a while before moving her tail away carefully. She peeked and made sure that the scary golden-furred thing was no longer staring at her from the side before she heaved a sigh of relief and swam to the side of the bathtub cautiously. She looked up at Mag with her reddened eyes that were filled with grief. Lantist had made countless preparations in order to return back to the continent. This included training in a special breathing technique which would allow merfolk to breathe and live on land for a short period of time, morphing their tails into legs so they could walk on land, and keeping the information of all the species on the Norland continent. And Gina was undoubtedly the best of the rest. She had read through the history of all the species, was the one who could breathe in air for the longest out of all the merfolks, and her morphed legs were no different from humans. In addition, as long as she could continue breathing in air, she would be able to maintain her legs. Hence, when their god issued the decree, she took on the responsibility of saving Lantist, and started her journey in search of the Chosen One. In the end, she found him, but they were unable to communicate because of the language barrier. The biggest problem of Lantist after being sealed for 1,000 years was not lagging behind in terms of strength, but the language barrier. Gina wanted to bang her head against this white and smooth shore and kill herself right now so the waves could bring her home. She had already used up her last teleportation stone, so even if she wanted to return, she could not. Mag could not stand women crying the most, not because he was soft-hearted, but because he would feel like slapping her. Wasn't it just a language barrier? Back when he just attended university, he still did not know that his family was rich, so he toured around Europe without money in his pocket. The language barrier did not stop him from using body language to get over mountains and rivers all the same. Mag relaxed his body and started his performance. Who are you? Where are you from? Why are you here? When Gina saw Mag flailing his arms around with exaggerated expressions, she was first dumbfounded, but she quickly realized that even though she could not understand what the Chosen One said, she seemed to be able to understand what he meant through his actions and expressions. Gina, she said clearly as she pointed to herself. You're Gina, Mag said as he pointed to Gina. Yes, yes. Gina nodded. She let out a relieved smile. She looked at Mag with an increasingly captivated gaze. He is the Chosen One indeed. He is good-looking, has a nice voice, and is so smart. Amy, who was at the side, followed suit as she pointed at herself, and said, I am Amy. Amy. Gina copied her. She was delighted. This beautiful name must be the name of this cute little elf. I am Mag, Mag said as he pointed to himself. Mag, Gina looked at Mag and her eyes lit up. So the Chosen One was called Mag. He would be Lantist's savior, rescuing the merfolk from the endless days of darkness. I from the sea. Gina pointed at the water and used her arm to make a wave-like motion. Then, she pointed at Mag and resolutely said, looking for you. Father, look, big sister Gina really knows you, Amy said in delight. Although Mag was really pleased with Gina's learning abilities, he really did not know this mermaid. Even Alex would not have gone around hooking up in the sea back then, right? Could it be that he had really rescued this mermaid before? Mag was still suspicious of it, but that was just the only possibility as of now. Why are you looking for me? Mag continued to ask as he moved his arms around. Gina watched with a frown for a while, and her eyes lit up when she understood Mag. But how should she explain the situation? He was the one chosen by the gods who could free Lantist from the deep sea. She thought anxiously while Mag and Amy waited quietly. No matter what, the most important thing was still to know what she came here for. The silence went on for more than 10 minutes. Just as Amy wanted to go back to sleep as she yawned, and Mag decided to go down to prepare the ingredients, Gina's face lit up and she started her performance. She first brought out something that looked like a flower carefully with a solemn face filled with respect. After that, she flailed her arms around and then drew a square around Mag and then pointed at Mag. Then, she did the seaweed dance with her arms, and then suddenly became a corpse lying in the water, submerging slowly to the bottom of the bathtub and reaching a hand out to Mag. Mag and Amy wrapped their left arms around their chests and propped their chins up on their right hands, rolling their eyes with the same expression as they looked at Gina's hand and pondered. I know. Amy's eyes lit up. She said with certainty, big sister Gina must be saying that she met father, who fell into the water, while she was holding on to some flowers. She used all her might to rescue you up to shore and even danced for you, but you kicked her back into the sea, so she would not let you off even if she were to die. Mag's eyes widened. Although this explanation felt a little weird, why does it seem inexplicably legitimate? Mag also chose to give up on this question temporarily. He asked, Can you come out from the bathtub? She almost died yesterday because of the lack of water and oxygen. However, she had legs when she just appeared, so Mag was curious if she could walk on land. Gina could understand Mag's hand actions and she nodded. She closed her eyes in concentration for a while, and a blue light shone between her brows. The water in the bathtub decreased by a third at a visible speed, all flowing towards that blue light in between her brows. After the blue light faded away, the colorful tail was gone, and in its place were two long and straight legs. Gina reached for the edge of the bathtub and stood up slowly. The bosom that even the shells were unable to fully cover was displayed in Mag's sight. Gina brushed her golden red hair to the back gently and smiled elegantly. Mag sniffed. He was so caught off guard by this scene of a beauty stepping out of the bath that it made him feel a little awkward. However, that gave Mag some understanding. This mermaid had plainly practiced some sort of magic, and she could use a certain amount of seawater to allow herself to breathe in air and turn her tail into legs at the same time. Meow. Ugly Duckling, who was hiding behind Amy, meowed softly. Ah! Gina, who wanted to greet them elegantly, got a fright and jumped up, with her legs open, onto Mag. She pulled his shirt open and stuffed her head in. Mag put his hands on her thighs subconsciously and remained in that suggestive position with Gina. Amy and Ugly Duckling watched with their mouths agape as the two remained in that weird position. After a moment of silence, Amy picked Ugly Duckling up and walked towards the door as she said, "We should let the adults have some space." Mag was speechless all of a sudden. Now there would be no way for him to clear his name. He only had his pajamas on since he just woke up. Now that Gina pulled his shirt open, her face was sticking right to his chest. She was already wearing nothing other than the two shells on her chest and the seaweed on her waist that was almost cleanly ripped apart. As a normal man with such a beautiful body sticking closely to him early in the morning, Mag felt that it was already getting bigger. If he had not felt her trembling from fear, Mag would have already thrown her back into the bathtub to cool down, but that would seem very insensitive right now. He could only pull her legs away and put her down as he said, "Gina, it's all right, Ugly Duckling has already gone out." 5 minutes later, Mag finally managed to put Gina, who was sticking to him like an octopus, back onto the ground and slid his hand over his crotch. After making sure that the scary cat was finally gone, Gina patted her chest with lingering fear. That was so scary. Luckily, Mr. Mag protected her. She looked at Mag with a face filled with gratitude and admiration. Probably only a brave person like him wouldn't be afraid of that scary thing, right? Mag looked at Gina, who was skimpily dressed, and let out a cough as he said, "Let me get you some clothes." After understanding what Mag was saying, Gina looked at her dressing in bewilderment. Everyone is dressed like this in the sea. What's wrong? If they were to wear clothes, it wouldn't be convenient for them to swim. Why was Mr. Mag making her change? Mag looked at Gina as she spread her arms with an innocent face, and his head hurt. Doesn't this lady have any self-awareness about her figure? Who could stand it if she was to just wear that? Mag thought for a while and reached out to switch off the heater. He clicked the button that would make the temperature drop quickly and set the temperature. The warm bathroom suddenly plummeted to 0 degrees Celsius, and the water on the floor started freezing. "It's so cold." Gina, who had never felt such extreme cold, shuddered. She felt as though she was about to freeze. Mag pulled out a bathrobe from the cupboard and put it around her, and then raised the temperature a little. Once the soft and warm bathrobe was on her, the cold vanished immediately. "So it's so warm to wear clothes. Also, it's soft and comfortable." Gina wrapped the bathrobe around her tightly with glee. It was the first time that she realized that clothes had such magnificent effects. "Wait here for a while. I'll get you some clothes." Mag motioned for Gina to wait in the bathroom and opened the door to walk out. Once he stepped out of the door, he saw Amy sitting on the staircase with Ugly Duckling in her arms and watching him carefully. "I'm going to get her a set of suitable clothes." For some reason, Mag felt a little guilty and his head hurt. He wondered how Amy would record down the events of this morning in her notebook. No matter how she wrote it, it would still end up in Irina's hands, and it would still be the end of him. Is this water? Why can't I see myself? Or is there someone that looks exactly like me hidden here? When Mag brought in a sailor dress, a school swimsuit, and a pair of small leather shoes, he saw Gina holding a shower head that she pulled out from somewhere, ready to smash the mirror. He quickly pulled her back and explained that it was a mirror, and what she saw in the mirror was her reflection, not a hidden person. These are clothes for you. Wear this on the inside, and these 3 on the outside. If you want to return to the water, you have to take off these 3 and put them at the side in case they get wet. Mag placed the clothes on the clothes rack at the side, and continued, there are pictures on how exactly to wear them. You can just follow the pictures. After he said that, Mag saw that Gina was already removing the string on her shells and got out quickly, closing the door behind him. This lady is really not mindful. With regards to the school swimsuit, Mag gave it to her just so that it would be convenient for her to enter and exit the bathtub. That's all. As for the sailor dress with black stockings, that's about it. In any case, the restaurant was pretty warm. After around 10 minutes, the door to the bathroom opened. Gina walked out awkwardly as she pulled her collar. She looked at Mag and smiled sweetly. Mag's eyes lit up. Her long, wavy golden red hair was almost dry and was hanging behind her. The white sailor dress had navy rims, and beneath the navy skirt were her long, straight legs and the black stockings that ended above her knees. Perfect. Mag nodded with satisfaction. Chapter 1024 Why are hers so big? Gina saw Ugly Duckling standing at the counter, watching her carefully, so she slowly inched her way to the kitchen door while keeping her back close to the wall. In the end, she still chose to escape into the kitchen because she felt safer with Mag by her side. What is he doing? Is he training his knife skills? Gina watched as Mag busied himself in the kitchen. As he waved the knife in his hand, various vegetables were amazingly reduced to small pieces. Gina stood there for a while watching, but she still did not understand what Mag was doing. She looked left and right, and her gaze fell on a glass tank at the side. Her eyes lit up suddenly, and she walked over quickly. This little fishy seems a little different from the ones in the ocean. It looks quite beautiful. And this shrimp? Although it doesn't look very big, it's quite good looking. Gina squatted in front of the fish tank and smiled. She reached her finger out and drew circles at the tank, and the fishes and shrimps started turning in the direction of her circles with her. Mag happened to look up and saw this scene. He could not help but feel surprised. That was way more incredible than dolphin training in aquariums. After all, dolphins had a very high IQ, and the dolphin trainers even used food as a reward over a long period to train them. However, Gina just squatted down, and those almost brainless fish and shrimp started moving according to her command with just a finger. Mag dazed off a little when he saw Gina's clean smile. Such a pure smile would probably only appear on the face of someone who had only lived on the bottom of the ocean and had yet to experience much. Firis came in to help with the preparations and saw Gina, dressed in a sailor dress, squatting in front of the fish tank. She asked, "This is?" She had never seen this lady before. She did not look like a customer. Besides, customers were not allowed to enter the kitchen. It was only 6 a.m., and the restaurant was not even open. Could it be that she slept over in the restaurant last night? What's her relationship with Mag? Firis's gaze suddenly changed. Her dressing style was very peculiar. It did not look like something that she often saw. Mag probably prepared it for her. Then, her gaze landed on her chest. Suddenly, she felt defeated. What did she do? Why are hers so big? Meanwhile, mine. Big Sister Bean Sprout, this is Big Sister Gina. She is a mermaid, but she can't speak," Amy said as she went over. When Gina heard her voice, she stood up and nodded with a smile as a greeting. She saw Ferris's sharp ears and her eyes lit up slightly. Another beautiful elf. However, she was a little curious too. If Amy was Mr. Mag's daughter, then who is this elf? Could she be Mr. Mag's wife? She looks even younger than me. Could it be that when she was even younger, Mr. Mag? Gina tried to curb her thoughts. From the looks of it, Mr. Mag was still a very refined man who made her feel very comfortable. "Hello," Ferris quickly replied with a nod. "Start preparing the ingredients for the Yongzhou fried rice first," Mag said naturally when he saw Ferris. Ferris was now the main helper for ingredient preparations. Her talent and her knife skills made the preparation a lot easier, giving Mag more time and energy for other things. Very soon, Gina watched with her mouth open as various ingredients flew in the air, all cut into small, equal pieces and landing on different plates. Mia and the rest arrived at the restaurant successively. They were all shocked when they saw Gina. Bablat, in particular, communicated with Gina passionately as they flailed their arms around, having felt as though she had met an old friend in a foreign land. Although the communication between them seemed like they were not on the same topic to Mag, that was not an obstacle for their passion. Even if they were just coming up with random topics, it made the conversation look as though they were best of friends. Of course, when Mag asked her later on, Babla herself had no idea what they talked about. In any case, she was just super excited. Ferris brought the breakfast that Mag had prepared out. Mag motioned to Gina, who was squatting back at the fish tank, playing with the fishes and shrimp, to eat as he said, "Come over for breakfast." Breakfast. Gina watched Mag and thought for a while. She reached her hand into the fish tank, grabbed a fish, and put it in her mouth. "Wait." Mag quickly stopped her and pulled that terrified fish out of her mouth and back into the tank. "They are all fishes, why harm each other in such haste?" He pointed outside, and said, "Not this, let's go outside and have the breakfast I made." When he saw Gina's confused face, Mag pulled her up and out. This lady might have never seen cooked food before. However, such an eating method is too gory. It's better to kick that habit. Even sashimi had to be cut. Besides, sashimi was cut out from saltwater fish. If one were to eat freshwater fish like that, even a mermaid would have an upset tummy. Mag pulled Gina out from the kitchen and made her sit by the table. He stuffed a spoon in her hand and pointed at the plate of Yongzhou fried rice in front of her, implying that she should eat that. "How pretty!" Gina held the spoon a little awkwardly. She looked at the fried rice in front of her and her eyes lit up instantly, just like when she saw the rainbow occasionally from the bottom of the sea. Her mother the Queen told her that before Lantis sank, rainbows could often be seen in the sky after a rain. After Lantis sank, they could only see rainbows occasionally when the ocean currents were strong. Those were the rare colors that could be seen from the bottom of the ocean. And the thing on this plate looked just like it had been made from a diced rainbow. Besides, what surprised her more was the aroma. She did not know how she should describe the fragrance, because she had never smelled something so aromatic in the underwater world. It felt as though there was a little claw pawing in her heart, making her swallow her saliva unconsciously. Gruel Gina's face turned red. She had not eaten for 2 days ever since she lost her water bottle in the desert. Now, with the trigger of the smell, her stomach protested uncontrollably. "Go on, use the spoon to put the rice into your mouth." Mag picked his spoon up and demonstrated it to Gina. He put a spoonful of rice into his mouth and started chewing slowly. The others also started eating. "So the people who live on land use silverware to eat? But won't you only be able to taste the food at its freshest when you eat it raw?" Gina found it quite novel. She held the spoon tightly in her right hand and copied what she saw, scooping up a spoonful of fried rice and putting it in her mouth. A delicious taste exploded in her mouth. She felt as though she had seen a vibrant rainbow being pulled down from the sky as a dancing kitchen knife chopped it into beautiful tiny pieces. After that, it was tossed and flipped around above a flame and finally sent into her mouth. What a charming taste! Even her tongue could feel the happiness. The taste of the various ingredients spread in her mouth and attacked her taste buds. Even after she had swallowed her food, the aroma still lingered in her mouth. Gina felt that she had opened the door to a whole new world. Fresh fishes were not worth mentioning in front of such a delicious plate of fried rice. It's simply delicious. Gina looked at Mag with admiration and let out a bewitched smile. If someone could actually create such delicious food in this world, it had to be the chosen one. Then have a little more. If it's not enough, I'll make more for you, Mag said with a smile. He still felt a little sympathetic towards those from a foreign land, especially when there was a language barrier, for they might feel even lonelier than him. Gina understood Mag's motions and nodded obediently. She held the spoon and continued eating the fried rice with a blissful smile. Very quickly, the plate of Yangzhou fried rice was finished. Mag reached out to stop Gina, who was about to eat the plate up, and told her to wait for a while. He went back into the kitchen and made another plate of fried rice for her. After finishing 2 plates of Yangzhou fried rice, Gina smiled with satisfaction. She stood up and bowed at Mag to show her gratitude. Although she was the princess of Lantist, she had received strict training from the high priest ever since she was young, so she had not really enjoyed any special treatment as a princess, and did not expect anything just because she was a princess. According to Lantist's old teachings, she should give herself to the chosen one in gratitude since he saved her and made her such delicious food. Gina was an obedient child, so she decided to abide by the old teachings. Of course, as a girl, she could not make it seem too obvious and hasty. At least, she could only do so when it was only the two of them. After breakfast, Mag sent Amy to school and began the busy operating hours. Gina waited obediently in the kitchen, occasionally passing them a plate and whatnot. However, most of the time, she was just squatting in the corner, telling the fishes and shrimps little secrets that Mag and the others could not understand. After the morning operating hours, Mag made everyone stay behind for a dialect conference. Everyone tried their different languages and dialects, and confirmed that none of them could communicate with Gina in their languages. Everyone left the restaurant. Maybe she isn't from the Norland continent, just like me? Mag looked at Gina questioningly. If he had not inherited Alex's memories, his communicative standards should have been around the same as Gina's. Gina was also a little disappointed. She had a lot that she wanted to tell Mag. She wanted him to help Lantist, but did not know how to express herself. Her people were still waiting in the dark ocean for her to return, and that made her slightly anxious and uneasy. Mag looked at Gina, who was biting her lips anxiously, and gently comforted, "Don't be anxious, if you are certain that you are here to look for me, I won't chase you away. There will always be a way out." Gina matched Mag's eyes and she suddenly felt a lot calmer. Suddenly, she felt a little dizzy and quickly ran upstairs. She could only maintain the human form for 3 hours without supplementary water. Additionally, because she used up almost all her energy to maintain her breathing yesterday, she was feeling the after effects of hypoxia now, and she had to return back into the water immediately. Would the water be too little? Mag went into the kitchen and followed her upstairs with a bag of sea salt. He knocked on the door of the bathroom first, and when he did not hear any reply, he hesitated for a while. However, he still opened the door and entered. The sailor dress was neatly folded and placed on the clothes rack at the side, and Gina was lying quietly with her eyes closed in the bathtub, wearing the Navy school swimsuit. For some reason, she did not change back into her mermaid form, and was already in a deep sleep. Very fitting indeed. Mag's gaze stayed on Gina for a while and he nodded with satisfaction. "Stop, stop, stop. Stop getting obsessed with cosplay." Mag forced himself to look away, and then added sea salt to the bathtub filled with water. Having a mermaid in the bathtub would work for a day or two, but this would not do for a long time. It would be inconvenient, be it for bathing or going to the loo. Mag looked at Gina, who flipped over comfortably, and turned away to walk out as he inwardly said, "System, how much does a large fish tank cost? The kind that can fit a mermaid." Host, mermaids are a protected species. You cannot rear them privately. You have to hand them over to the country. Tisk, do you think it's a salamander? The system thinks that as a candidate for the god of cookery, the first thing the host should think of when you see a mermaid is how to make a red braised mermaid. That would be the fitting thought process of a qualified god of cookery. If the host can make a delicious plate of red braised mermaid, the system can provide you with the sufficient ingredients, guaranteed to be pure, wild mermaids. Piss off. After a series of haggling, Mag spent 2,000 copper coins to buy a large fish tank that came with an automatic water filler and purifier. It was 3 meters long and 2 meters tall, so even if Gina were to be in her mermaid form, she could still easily fit into the fish tank and even roll around. Because of the large area the fish tank took up, Mag placed it in the spare room on the second floor beside the master bedroom. Previously, when the restaurant expanded, the area of the house also expanded by 2 times, so Mag left 2 rooms as spare rooms. Now, one of them could be put to use. He had decided to let her stay for a while before figuring out why Gina came to look for him. If he were to chase her out right now, without being able to communicate or survive on land for a long period of time, it would be akin to killing her. Mag could not bring himself to do something like that. In the Food Association building, employees were hustling around. The results of the latest delicious cuisine rankings would be published in 2 days. After 3 months, the delicious cuisine rankings would release its rankings after a huge reformation. Whether the Food Association could come out with a satisfactory list this time would be the deciding factor of whether they could continue to be Chaos City's food guide. The vice president rushed into the president's office with a stack of papers. Facing Robert, who was sitting behind the desk, he said, "President, most of the judges have already completed their judging for the restaurants in the delicious cuisine rankings. The 3 independent statistical groups have undergone tallying and the preliminary results are out, but the ranking, what's wrong with the ranking?" Robert received the stack of statistical reports and looked at it. He appeared surprised, but seemed to be able to understand the results. "President, this ranking. Should we edit it? This doesn't seem too good, right?" the vice president hesitantly said.